the tweets. If it's news, if it's nasty, he breaks it down. Cause the truth hits different when the facts come out. Scrolling through the chaos, everybody's got a take. But Steve's in the live with the sources on display. No rumors, no drama, no somebody said. Just what's proven, what's solid, what's actually been read. He's calling out the claims, separating real from fake. Cutting through confusion like a clean earthquake. Current events, yeah, he's got that mapped. If it's not verified, it's getting unwrapped. So drop your questions, drop your doubts. Steve's here sorting all the truth from the cloud. No panic, no spin, no agenda to flatter. Just one simple rule, facts still matter. Facts still matter, say it louder, say it louder. Truth cuts through all the noise, that's power. Steve's in the chat with the real-time data. Drop that spin, we'll fact check it later. Facts still matter, yeah, we're keeping receipts. Headlines flying, but we read past the tweets. If it's news, if it's now, Steve breaks it down. Cause the truth hits different when the facts come out.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday, February the 19th. Hope you're enjoying Mardi Gras week. Maybe you're on vacation this week. I hope you're celebrating. Thanks for being here. We know you got many choices to make every single day, and we are super grateful you choose to spend some time with us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You know the drill. Tapping is clapping, liking is loving, sharing is caring. We appreciate you. Don't forget, please complete your tasks. Do all the things, as Erica says. Please do that. There is a gifting goal today. Please help us out there. We are tracking towards our $25K goal to support the Do Something Tour. $2,178. If you want to contribute there, you can do so at Factsstillmatter on the blue app, on the green app, and on the other blue app. Please do that. Head on over to the link tree that's in my bio. You'll find the link to our Discord. If for some reason it doesn't work, which does happen, you can copy the link, post it into a browser, and it will open. And or contact one of our moderators and they can help you out as well. We just ask you to go through the verification steps. It's pretty easy, won't take very long, and it's free. Appreciate you. Bro, no one cares. Why are you here? You obviously care, user. Have a good day. Love you. Also, while you're over in the link tree, check out the merch store, Facts HQ. A lot of really cool items that are in there, including a new Do Something shirt. If you want to participate, again, want to join the cause, there's a lot of great items in there. We appreciate you all for being here. And if you'd like to, share and tell people about us, if you're just finding us here on a Thursday, please share the live. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you. Lots of things to talk about, but first, we've got to do this. Some breaking news, in case you haven't heard, if you're just waking up, if you're just finding us, former Prince Andrew, now Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, has been arrested. He was arrested this morning for suspected misconduct in public office after revelations in the e-files. King Charles III's younger brother was arrested on his 66th birthday about 2 weeks after files released by the U.S. Department of Justice prompted an anti-royal organization to call for police to investigate documents indicating that Andrew shared confidential government information with the late American Schmex offender when the royal worked as a British trade envoy. The report of Andrew's arrest on his 66th birthday came after multiple police vehicles were seen arriving Thursday morning at his new residence on Charles Sandringham Estate in the eastern English county of Norfolk. Shortly after 8 a.m. local time, 3 a.m. Eastern this morning, 6 unmarked police vehicles were seen arriving at Wood Farm on King Charles's Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, Eastern England, where Mountbatten-Windsor recently took up residence. The Thames Valley Police confirmed just over a week ago that it was assessing claims against Mountbatten-Windsor that emerged claims against Mountbatten-Windsor that emerged in the latest release of the e-files by the Justice Department to determine whether a formal investigation was warranted. In a statement on Thursday, the Thames Valley Police confirmed that, quote, as part of the investigation, we have today arrested a man in his 60s from Norfolk on suspicion of misconduct in public office and are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk. It said the man who did not name in line with police procedures remains in police custody at this time. In an interview early Thursday with CBS, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said nobody is above the law when he was asked about Mountbatten-Windsor. Well, really? Okay. I think that's a matter of time for the police. They will conduct their own investigation, but one of the core principles in our system is that everybody is equal under the law and nobody is above it, said Starmer. Last week, Buckingham Palace said in a statement, on behalf of the king, that the royal family would cooperate if police came asking questions about Mountbatten-Windsor. The king has made it clear in words and through unprecedented actions his profound concern at allegations which continue to come to light in respect of Mr. Mountbatten-Windsor's conduct. A spokesperson for Buckingham Palace said in a statement, While the specific claims in question are for Mr. Mountbatten Windsor to address, if we are approached by the Thames Valley Police, we stand ready to support them as you would expect. CBS News had sought comment from Mountbatten Windsor's representatives repeatedly since the E-Files first revealed his close ties with Epstein. He did not respond, but in the past had always denied any wrongdoing. King Charles stripped his brother of his royal titles last year amid intense scrutiny over Andrew's friendship with Epstein and accusations made by American Virginia Giuffre that she was trafficked to engage in schmex with Mountbatten Windsor when she was underage. Mountbatten Windsor denied those allegations but reached a settlement with Giuffre in 2022, paying her around $16 million, according to British media reports. Giuffre took her own life last year, as you know. Quote, "At last today, our broken," this is from her family, "At last today, our broken hearts have been lifted at the news that no one is above the law, not even royalty." Giuffre's siblings said in a statement shared with CBS on Thursday, "On behalf of our sister, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, we extend our gratitude to the UK's Thames Valley Police Department for their investigation and the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He was never a prince. For survivors everywhere, Virginia did this for you." Mountbatten Windsor had previously suggested that an undated photo showing him with Giuffre and close Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell could have been faked. And Maxwell made the same claim in a jailhouse interview in early 2023, but among the documents released by the US government this year was a draft email that appeared to show Maxwell confirming its authenticity. In the message sent by G. Maxwell to Epstein in 2015, she wrote, quote, "In 2001, I was in London when, name redacted, met a number of friends of mine, including Prince Andrew. A photograph was taken as I imagined she wanted to show it to friends and family." Busted. Giuffre had claimed that she was forced to have schmex with Andrew in Florida when she was 17 after being trafficked to the encounter by Maxwell. So there's more. Let me just finish this story. Hang on one second. Oh, don't do this to me. Okay. While earlier allegations about Andrew's actions in the E-Files largely centered around the former prince's alleged encounters with young women in conjunction with Jeffrey, the anti-monarchy group Republic, I didn't even know there was such a thing. I'd like to, maybe Erica, if you're around today, or if anybody is, I'd love to know what the anti-monarchy group is, called Republic, called earlier this month. I mean, I can assume what it is, but it's interesting. This month for a formal investigation over his actions as a British trade official. Emails among the millions of documents released by the Department of Justice on January the 30th appear to show the former prince passed on confidential reports on his visits as an official British trade envoy to Singapore, Hong Kong, and Vietnam, including details of investment opportunities. One email thread shows that after his travel to Asia on November the 30th, 2010, Mountbatten Windsor forwarded official reports on his visits sent to him by his then special advisor, Amit Patel, to Epstein. Just minutes after he received them, there was no message from the then prince to Epstein accompanying him the forwarded messages. Another email exchange between the men the following month appears to show Mountbatten Windsor sharing files he described as a confidential brief on potential investment opportunities in southern Afghanistan, where British forces were based at the time. Follow the fucking money every fucking time, I swear. Then Prince Andrew said, like, this guy needed more money? He's a fucking royal. Anyway, then Prince Andrew said he was sharing the documents with Epstein to seek, quote, his comments, views, or ideas as to whom I could also usefully show this to attract some interest in the opportunities described in the brief. The allegations echoed similar revelations from the last tranche of Epstein files that suggest former British ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, shared confidential government information with the late American financier as well. The London Metropolitan Police confirmed in an investigation into his actions earlier this month. The decision by Starmer to tap Mandelson for the key diplomatic post brought huge pressure on the UK leader to resign. Though following the resignation of his chief of staff, Starmer appeared likely to hang on to his job, at least for the time being. So there's an arrest. I guess we'll see where this goes, right? But at least there is an arrest. And I find it interesting. It seems like they're centering on the arrest portion is sharing state secrets, basically. Okay. I'll take that. Small little victories. We can add it to the list, though, because there is a growing list of people who've either stepped aside or are facing, public scrutiny. That includes Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, You remember that fine gentleman who was celebrating the torture video. Yeah, that's nice. Chairman and CEO at Dubai DP World. Thomas Pritzker resigned. Executive Chairman of Hyatt Hotels. Kathy Rumler, Chief Legal Officer and General Counsel at Goldman Sachs. She resigned. Peter Mandelson, British politician in the House of Lords. You just heard that story. Morgan McSweeney, Downing Street Chief of Staff, resigned over appointing Mandelson. Tim Allen, Allan, Downing Street Director of Comms, resigned for same reason as McSweeney. Miroslav Laschek, Slovak National Security Advisor. Larry Summers, OpenAI Board of Directors, also prominent figure at Harvard University. Sarah Fergie, former Duchess of York, closed 6 of her businesses. Jack Lang, head of Arab World Institute in France. Caroline Lang, head of independent production in France. David A. Ross, School of Visual Arts chairman. Joanna Rubinstein, chair of Sweden for UNHCR. All these people, at least these are the ones that we know of, have resigned. Well, there's a longer list too, actually. Is this the one? Also, former Norwegian Prime Minister Thorbjorn Jagland is under investigation for alleged aggravated corruption linked to JE, with police searching his properties, and his immunity has been lifted. Norwegian authorities have launched a criminal investigation into Thorbjorn Jagland, who served as Norway's prime minister from 1996 to 1997, later chaired the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, and was Secretary General of the Council of Europe from 2009 to 2019. The probe focuses on whether Jagland received gifts, loans, travel, or other benefits from Epstein during his tenure in these positions. Remember, Alan Dershowitz and others, and Howard Nuttlich as well, called Epstein the greatest blackmailer of all time. Again, the probe focuses on gifts that he received, including gifts, loans, travel, or other benefits from Epstein during his tenure in these positions, following revelations in the files released by the DOJ. Jagland has denied visiting his private island and maintains that his contacts were limited to professional or diplomatic matters. Norwegian police, through the specialized Yakrim Economic Crimes Unit, have conducted searches of Jagland's Oslo residence and recreational properties. These searches followed the lifting of his diplomatic immunity by the Council of Europe, which allowed authorities to pursue the investigation without legal obstacles. Jagland is formally under investigation for aggravated corruption, a legal category in Norway that allows authorities to examine potential misconduct before formal charges are filed. The Epstein files include emails and correspondence suggesting that Jagland and Epstein's associates made plans for family visits to Epstein's properties in Palm Beach and the Caribbean in 2014. Though these trips were reportedly canceled, other documents indicate Jagland sought Epstein's assistance in financing an apartment in Oslo and discussed potential meetings with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and insights for President Vladimir Putin. While these documents show contact, they do not confirm criminal wrongdoing. This fucking web, friends, it is just layer on top of layer on top of layer. The scandal has implicated other Norwegian figures, including Crown Princess Mette Marit, if I botched that pronunciation, my apologies, former Foreign Minister Borge Brend, and diplomats Mona Juul and Terje Rode Larsen. Brend, now CEO of the World Economic Forum, is under an independent review for his interactions with Epstein, while Juul and Rode Larsen face investigations for alleged corruption linked to Epstein's financial support. The revelations have prompted calls in Norway for broader parliamentary and independent inquiries into the extent of the Epstein-related contacts among politicians and diplomats. Jagland's contacts with Epstein have drawn scrutiny due to his leadership roles in the Council of Europe and the Nobel Committee, where ethical guidelines restrict acceptance of gifts or benefits that could influence decisions. Norwegian authorities and the Nobel Institute are reviewing whether any of Jagland's interactions with Epstein violated these rules. Jagland has stated he wishes to cooperate fully with the investigation and seeks authoritative clarification from Akerum. Long story short, other countries are doing shit. Other countries are holding allegations of these fucking predators. They're holding them accountable. What do you know? What do you know? But not here. Nope. Where are the investigations into all these people? How come other countries, how come similar accusations and allegations are made against a lot of these people? Not just the financial crimes, but crimes against children. Crimes against children, the worst possible crimes against children. How come other countries are taking these things seriously? Why is that? I can tell you this. If women were included in the sequel, this shit wouldn't be fucking happening. And we're going to talk about that. I made some hypotheticals, asked a couple of hypothetical questions about what the United States would look like if we were a full-blown matriarchy. And it's going to blow you away. I gave a couple of prompts to ChatGPT. I was just curious what it said. We're going to talk about it. And you'll be like, holy fuck. Holy fuck. Everybody. All right. Again, you hear this news, and I'm obviously bring Prince Andrew in and arrest his ass and investigate. Absolutely, we all want accountability. Where the fuck is the accountability here? Where is it? Why are none of these people being dragged across the fucking coals? Here's one example. Here's this list. This is from that reporting by Mr. Sullenberger. I'm gonna read you more of this because I think it's so fucking relevant. This is that story that we shared the other day about why people are just getting away with this shit. Hang on a second. Where is it? Right here. These names. The president, obviously. Weinstein, Glenn Dubin, Prince Andrew now maybe facing some accountability, Jess Staley, Leon Black, Les Wexner. We're going to talk about how no Republicans went to his deposition yesterday. Why? Alan Dershowitz, Howard Lutnick, Bill Barr, Leon Black. Why are none of these people being arrested? Because the allegations against them are similar to the allegations against Prince Andrew. Exactly. Stop asking for the Epstein files and start demanding the Epstein trials. I love that comment. What are we doing? I mean, we know. Yeah, Leon Black was worse. You're right. It's just one thing after another. It's just like every single day, I go back to this principal point, right? I hate to say it every single day, but you guys know the drill. The system built by, for, to protect people who look like me, to summarize. And that's where we sit. This is so fucking big. This is so big that it's just like, I don't think we even have any clue how big this is. I was chatting with a friend yesterday, and it was the same topic that came up. Like, it's everywhere. And if there's anything, I'm not going to say silver lining, that'd be horrible. But if there's anything potentially positive that could come out of this, is it's being exposed. The question is, who's going to be held accountable? I know we've got Lutnick, we've got Bill Barr, we've got this Kevin Warsh, who's going to be the new Fed chair. Not just because your name's in here. I'm not pointing guilt, but are we going to do anything? Are we going to do anything about this? There's new reporting about how Trump was the one that's been telling the FBI what to release and what not to release, and what to cover up and what not to cover up. It's like, and again, this goes back to the conversations we've had the last couple of days. If you want any chance to hold any of these people accountable, it's not going to come from Republicans. So if you're going to check out on election day and not vote for the Democrat, then you're part of the problem too. So again, please remind people what's at stake here. Thank you, Swishy Raiders. I appreciate you guys. Hearts of the chat for Swish Raiders, please. Oh, and by the way, we're moving ships into the Med to perhaps, or into the Middle East to perhaps go to war with Iran. That's nice. That's great. Beautiful. Interesting, though. This is what the president said a few years ago, back in when Obama was president. This is what our current president had to say about Barack Obama and Iran.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate.
Oh.
He's weak and he's ineffective.
Oh.
So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an outrage.
Okay. That's good to know. That's great. Thanks for sharing that with us. Yes, friends, we do know that Prince Andrew has been arrested. We touched on that at the top of the show. So if you're just joining us, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, former prince, has been arrested. It is under investigation for his financial connections to JE, allegations of his crimes, and also because he potentially might have shared state secrets. Something to that effect. Yeah. Yep. So the president calling, this is saber rattling. Okay. The president of the United States, who claims that he wants the Nobel Peace Prize, U.S. military pushes more weaponry into the Middle East for possible strikes on Iran. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. The Pentagon is sending a slew of additional weaponry to the Middle East, including more warships, air defenses, and subs in preparation for a possible military strike if President Trump makes that decision, according to U.S. officials and information from public tracking. It's not going to be Trump making that decision. Of course not. The buildup of military hardware comes as U.S. and Iran are still pursuing diplomatic talks, which could help avert a conflict. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi noted, quote, good progress after indirect talks with Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner in Geneva on Tuesday. White House press sec Caroline Leavitt said Wednesday, quote, there was some progress being made in the talks, but there are still a lot of details to discuss. The prospect of a breakthrough looked remote, with both sides far apart on fundamental issues. The Trump administration has insisted that Iran agree to restrictions on its missile program, as well as its nuclear work, which Tehran so far has rejected as out of the question. Keep in mind, friends, back early in the Trump administration, when Keg's Breath and the president bragged about decimating and ending the Iranian nuclear program, if that were the case, then why is that still something that the U.S. government wants addressed? Because decimated means decimated, like it's gone. Maybe they lied to you. Maybe. Trump's top national security advisors huddled in the sit room on Wednesday to discuss Iran. According to a senior administration official, no final decisions have been made on potential military action, the official said, as the U.S. awaits a written response from Iran that could address some of the outstanding areas of disagreement between the two countries. Meanwhile, the USS Gerald Ford, the second aircraft carrier that Trump is sending to the Middle East, and its accompanying ships are steaming across the Atlantic into the Mediterranean. According to U.S. officials, it is expected there in the coming days, and a nuclear sub remains in the Mediterranean. First of all, why do we know where subs are? We shouldn't. I thought that was the deal. Okay. When it does, it will join the USS Abraham Lincoln and the attendant ships from which its carrier strike group in the Persian Gulf. According to U.S. officials, a number of other ships are also in the region, including at least 3 littoral combat ships, a guided missile destroyer in the Red Sea, and 2 guided missile destroyers in the Persian Gulf near the Strait of Hormuz, according to the ship tracker at the U.S. Naval Institute. Top Iranian officials have warned many times in recent years that they will militarily block the Strait of Hormuz, a vital shipping lane that handles about 20% of global oil supply. If the country is attacked, Iranian state media reported Tuesday that parts of the Strait of Hormuz would close for a few hours due to security precautions while Iran's elite Revolutionary Guards conduct military drills there. The aircraft carriers and accompanying warships allow the U.S. to conduct an attack on Iran without having to draw on U.S. aircraft stationed at Arab Gulf states. Those governments fearing retaliation from Iran's missile arsenal have said that they will not allow offensive operations launched from their territories. It is still unclear whether any attack on Iran would involve the U.S. military alone or joint operations with the Israeli military. Secretary of State Rubio is expected to travel to Israel on the 28th of February to meet with Bibi, according to a State Department official. War criminal Bibi Netanyahu, who visited Washington last week, is nervous about the status of the ongoing Iran negotiations, and Rubio is going to provide him an update, a second State Department official has said. The I country opposed the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, and Trump withdrew the U.S. from the agreement during his first term. That's pretty telling. Don't forget, the pressure to do this came from Bibi. I've got another rabbit hole that I'm going to share with you guys about Bibi's country in just a moment. You'll be like, really? Okay. At the height of street protests against the Iranian regime in January, Trump promised protesters that help is on the way. Remember that? Cheering on Iranian protesters. MAGA. Your president cheering on and celebrating Iranian protesters. Meanwhile, in the streets of American City, his armed thugs are murdering American citizens in cold blood. Yeah. Nothing to see here. America first, right? Cool. Again, at the height of the street protests against the Iranian regime in January, Trump promised protesters that help is on the way. But no U.S. intervention materialized, and Iranian security forces gunned down thousands of unarmed demonstrators across the country. The U.S.-based human rights activist news agency, or HRANA, said in a report on Sunday that 7,000 people have lost their lives in protesting since late December. Do we suddenly have sympathy for Iranian protesters? MAGA, I'm asking you. As a humanist, I do. They're pushing back against an oppressive regime. Sound familiar? Probably not. Trump said publicly that he had tabled the idea of taking military action because Iran had halted its deadly crackdown on protesters. He has since pursued diplomatic talks. Taka, once again, the U.S. military buildup in the region is similar to what preceded the aerial attack in June that Trump ordered against 3 nuclear sites in Iran when 2 carriers were deployed to the Arabian Sea. The June strikes marked the first time the U.S. launched an airstrikes at Iranian soil. Operation Midnight Hammer, fucking stupid ass fucking name, lasted less than 30 minutes, according to the Pentagon. This time, a U.S. air attack on Iran could last longer, particularly if Trump tries to inflict lasting or fatal damage on the regime. Wasn't the whole point that you guys didn't want regime change anymore? Wasn't that like the principle? Again, this guy crying about the Nobel Peace Prize? What? Hey, yo, your homophobia is showing there, friend. It's really showing. It's only 8:27 a.m. Eastern time. Have you had any coffee? Have you had your Yoo-hoo and your Pop-Tart? Yo, it's interesting that all of a sudden, so early on, you want to show your homophobia. It's wild, man. Wild. Depending on what the president decides, the targets could include Iran's air defense systems, which were already damaged in the June war between Israel and Iran, ballistic missile depots and launchers, drone manufacturing plants and bases used by the Revolutionary Guards, and Basel militia, which both played a leading role in the lethal crackdown against anti-regime protesters last month that left thousands unalived. If Trump tries to topple the regime, he could order an array of covert actions as well as quote, decapitation strikes aimed at killing the country's leadership, including the highest authority in the country, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Any strikes on nuclear sites would likely include an attack on, I won't even try to pronounce it, the same mountain areas that they went after the first time. Since June, Iran has renewed construction work at the site, which is located near another nuclear facility, Natanz, according to commercial satellite imagery and experts. So, like, what? Is this peace through strength? Or is this just the president just because he wants to? Wasn't that the promise? No new wars? Wasn't that the promise? I know it doesn't matter, but it's just, again, another example of the hypocrisy. It's crazy. We'll keep our eyes on that, obviously. Not a good day. Not a good day if we are going to be considering engaging once again. Wasn't that the entire fucking point? Isn't that what America First is supposed to be? Isn't that what it is? You didn't. I've heard so many fucking people defending, criticizing American interventionism and, use of the military industrial complex. And that's one of the reasons that you cheered on Trump so much. And now what are you going to fucking do? Now what happens? Now you're suddenly fine with it? Can you just make up your mind, please, so that we can move on? Y'all are the reason we can't have nice things. You're fine with spending more money to do so that they can flex a little bit more. Meanwhile, we know that the ACA subsidies, by the way, I think I mentioned this yesterday, are dead on arrival. They're not going to get renegotiated. So everybody's insurance premiums, because of the ACA subsidies being not being extended, everybody's cost of insurance are going up. But this is fine. That's totally fine. Nothing to see here. It's fine. It's fine that we're just going to go to war again. Oh, you're not going to call it a war. Got it. Okay. Once again, in case you are, again, just joining us, that former Prince Andrew has been arrested, and we can add it to the list of accountability for other people. Nobody in our country. Yeah, that's right. I forgot, but the Dow's at 50,000, you guys, just so you know. The S&P's breaking records, NASDAQ up. We're good. Everybody, nobody worry. Nobody worry. We're good. Okay. So we're going to spend some time talking about this morning that include women in the sequel. As we've discussed here, I'm pro women, and I would love before my life let me rephrase. I don't expect a full-blown matriarchy in the United States, at least in my lifetime, but it shouldn't be about that. It should be about future generations. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's new reporting. This is fucking wild. This is reported by Ground News that the government's intelligence agencies had installed security at Jeffrey's Manhattan apartment for ex-PM Ehud Barak. Investigative report reveals that the Israeli UN mission coordinated with the convicted offender's staff to secure a Manhattan residence. This shit is just like, it just gets fucking deeper and deeper and deeper. The Israeli government installed security equipment and controlled access to a Manhattan apartment building managed by the late offender J.E., according to an investigation published by Dropsite News. Based on a tranche of emails recently released by the U.S. DOJ, the report detailed how Israeli officials coordinated directly with Jeffrey's staff starting in early 2016 to secure a residence at 301 East 66th Street. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak frequently used the apartment for extended stays. Well, the property was technically owned by a company linked to Epstein's brother, Mark. The disgraced financier essentially controlled it. The units in the building were frequently loaned to Epstein associates and used to house underage models, the report said. BI country, right? According to this reporting and according to information that was just recently released in e-files, installed security cameras. Remember, there was that reporting by Michael Wolff that, and again, not only him, but also some of the video footage we saw from his island. There were video cameras everywhere, and the reporting was that he had a safe that included pictures, that included videos, that included, whatever that might be. Where is all that shit? Where is all that? Yeah, I saw that. We're going to talk about Zorro Ranch in just a bit. Where is it all? If numerous people said that he was the greatest blackmailer of all time, well, this would explain it. He's got the goods on everybody. So do we still think he took his own life? I know that this is video that's been circulating of somebody who looks like him walking the streets of Tel Aviv. From everything that I've read and researched, that's an AI image. I saw somebody recently post an image. This is how desperate people are. Saw somebody recently post an image of Barack Obama sitting down at a table having lunch with someone. And the claim was that person was J.E. That person was actually Anthony Bourdain. Okay? I mean, that's how desperate people are. So, but here we are again. The greatest blackmailer, coined by other people, the greatest blackmailer of all time, with all these rumors and innuendos connected to his relationship with the Mossad and with the I country, and then more and more information that comes out, we find out that the Israeli security services were installing security cameras in this apartment that they used to traffic underage girls that Ehud Barak used to frequent. So what? Exactly, R.I.P. Anthony Bourdain. What? Okay. Barak served as a prime minister from 1999 to 2001. Under Israeli law, former prime ministers received state-funded security after leaving office. The documents expose a direct operational relationship between the I country's permanent mission to the UN and Epstein's enterprise. Why? Why? Why would they need that level of scrutiny? Gee, Rafi Shlomo, the former director of protective services at the I mission, and head of Barak's security detail, personally controlled access to the apartment. Shlomo conducted background checks on E's employees and cleaning staff and held meetings with them to coordinate the installation of surveillance equipment. The structural modifications carried out by the I government required permission from Epstein. So he fucking knew, again, according to information that was released in the documents and also reported on by Dropsite News. In a January 26 email exchange between Barak's wife, Nili Priel, they discussed the installation of alarms and surveillance tools with Epstein's longtime assistant, Leslie Groff. Priel noted that the system included sensors on the windows and remote access capabilities. Quote, they can neutralize the system from far before you need somebody to enter the apartment. You can turn the cameras on, turn the cameras off. You don't have to be there. So many people focus on the island, right? So many people focus on the island. So many of these crimes, allegedly, happen in New York, in Florida. They can neutralize the system from far before you need somebody to enter the apartment. Priel wrote, the only thing to do is to call Rafi from the consulate and let him know who and when is entering. Groff later confirmed to Barak and Priel that Epstein had personally authorized the physical alterations to the property, writing, quote, Jeffrey says he does not mind holes in the wall, and this is all just fine. The correspondence between the Israeli mission and Epstein's representatives continued regularly throughout 2016 and 2017 to manage access for maids and coordinate subsequent visits by Barak and other guests. After Epstein's death in a New York jail in 2019, while he was waiting his trafficking trial, Barak tried to downplay his relationship with the financier, claiming that while they had met, Epstein never supported or paid him. The political fallout from their relationship has been seized upon by Barak's rivals in Israel. Bibi recently weaponized the newly released documents, arguing that the ties implicated Barak rather than Israel. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. Not at all. Quote, J.E.'s unusually close relationship with Barak doesn't suggest that J.E. worked for Israel. It proves the opposite. Does it? Does it really? Sounds like you took a page out of Trump's book there, Bibi, or the other way around. Accusing Barak of working with the anti-Zionist radical left to undermine the I country's current government. However, the emails released by the U.S. Justice Department demonstrate that the entanglement extended beyond Barak to other active Israeli state officials. Yanni Koren, a longtime aide to Barak who died in 2023, was also a frequent guest at the 66th Street apartment. Congressional investigations and leaked emails indicate Koren stayed at the Epstein-controlled residence multiple times, including in 2013 while he was serving as the bureau chief for the Israeli Ministry of Defense. Further records show the Koren continued to use the apartment while receiving medical treatment in New York until Epstein's final arrest in 2019. The ties between Epstein and Israel have come into sharp focus since the release of millions of documents relating to the criminal investigation into Epstein. Beyond his interactions with members of the global elite, including Barack, the files document Epstein's financial support for Israeli groups, including Friends of the Israeli Army and the settler organizations, the Jewish National Fund, as well as his connections to the Mossad, Israel's foreign intelligence agency. Barack has expressed remorse over his ties to Epstein, despite the financier pleading guilty to soliciting a minor for prostitution in 2008, which we talked about yesterday, how Alex Acosta worked with one of his best friends to negotiate that deal, not share the information with the victims, and so on and so forth. Despite the financier pleading guilty to soliciting a minor for prostitution in 2008, which resulted in a prison sentence, Barack maintained a close personal and business relationship with him. The former Israeli leader claimed he remained unaware of the full scope of Epstein's crimes until a wider federal inquiry was opened in 2019. Sure. These people think we're fucking stupid. They really do. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And this shit is fucking an inferno. There's long been rumors of the connections. And to be honest, this goes in a multitude of different directions. A multitude of directions. It goes here, it goes there. It goes to Charlie Kirk. It goes to Erica Kirk. It goes to connections to deep-pocketed financiers. It goes to Silicon Valley. It goes to Wall Street. It goes to politics. It goes to the entertainment industry. It goes to royal families. It's fucking everywhere. Everywhere. And the only thing that most people are asking is that these motherfuckers face trial. Once we start talking about this, oh no, I'm not high. It's the truth, Indio. You may not like it, but that's the truth. Think about some of the rumors and innuendo. Who was part of his security detail? He had former Mossad security agents as part of his security detail. I'm not making that accusation. I'm just saying these things are all fucking interconnected somehow, some way. Who knew what, where, and when? It's everywhere. It's fucking everywhere. Like, what? Got the goods. Good morning, friend.
Good morning. I just, I've been listening and, as a Jewish woman, I just want to remind everybody that when we talk about the I country, that doesn't represent the entire Jewish religion to everybody that is slow.
Thank you for clarifying that. I meant it's always about the government. I know it's not about you. You're not saying anything wrong, but I think that it's important to remember that if you correlate, all Jewish people with the I country, it's like saying all Americans love Trump. Right. And that's just wrong, clearly, And so someone like myself, I am anti-Zionist. I don't support Netanyahu, and this stuff disgusts me, but I'm Jewish. So I just want everybody to remember that, especially the red hats who have a hard time, accepting things in their head. But anyways, just wanted to say that, and I love you. Love you too. Thanks for being here, friend. I appreciate you. Have a good day. Right, be safe out there. This is all part of this whole, how they literally are playing in our faces. Case in point, okay? This is just a little bit more to kind of hammer that point home, so to speak. So Dr. Oz is, he is who he is. He did a sit-down interview. I think he's sitting down with his wife, and this is what he had to say. Just listen to this.
And the one nice thing about this administration is you might not like us, but you're going to get our version of the truth. And what we generally would, because we're, looking at the numbers, pretty accurately can define as being the truth.
I'm sorry, what? What was that?
And the one nice thing about this administration is you might not like us, but you're going to get our version of the truth. And what we generally would, because we're, looking at the numbers, pretty accurately can define as being the truth.
Our version of the truth. That's the quote of the fucking day. It's our version of the truth. This gives me the whole, what was her name? Kellyanne Conway? Alternative facts. One more time.
And the one nice thing about this administration is you might not like us, but you're going to get our version of the truth. And what we generally would, because we're looking at the numbers, pretty accurately can define as being the truth.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you, Toodle. I'm going to do a new show. I'm going to change my handle. It's going to be Alternative Facts Still Matter. We're going to need a new song, new background, new logo. Alternative Facts Still Matter. You might not like us, but you're going to get our version of the truth. Like, what? What? That famous Seinfeld episode, Jerry, if you convince yourself it's not a lie. I'm sorry, one more time.
And the one nice thing about this administration is you might not like us, but you're going to get our version of the truth. And what we generally would, because we're looking at the numbers, pretty accurately can define as being the truth.
Yeah, there's that. Cool. Fucking sweet, brah. Fucking sweet. Again, I know a lot of folks that might have just joined us, but we broke the news at the top of the show today that former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, has been arrested and being investigated for his financial crimes for the most part, potentially sharing state secrets, but other shit as well. So there's that. Okay. And I ran down the list of other prominent figures in all industries. And like I said, this connects everywhere. Everywhere. I think I told you the story about how I love to watch the Olympics, and hat tip to Michaela Schifrin for getting that gold medal. That was awesome. But I was watching the Olympics, and I enjoy it. I wanted a break from all kinds of shit. And then where did my head go when I watch young women, teenage girls that are figure skaters? Where did my fucking head go? It went right to here. That sucks that had to happen, but that's probably what a lot of us are thinking these days. You got the iCountry installing security systems, putting holes in walls, the ability to turn cameras on and off. What? But again, nothing to see here. Okay, so I want to get into this other story because there's this gentleman by the name of Roger Sollenberger. I talked about this the other day. Yeah, well, I know it's his birthday today too. It's his 66th birthday today. I talked about Roger Sollenberger, about how the FBI interviewed Trump accuser in the Epstein files. We broke this story down because what they uncovered in this story was a lot of the evidence that they used to convict Ghislaine Maxwell appeared in this document, meaning that the right for so long has been saying there is no credible allegations. Well, there actually is. It's credible because they used the same information to convict Maxwell. So he's done some amazing reporting. Well, there's a follow-up now. So you can follow him on Substack. His name is Roger Sollenberger. The DOJ removed, this was dated yesterday. The DOJ removed record of multiple FBI interviews with underage Trump accuser, the data shows. The FBI spoke at least 4 times with a woman who credibly accused Trump of SA when she was a minor. The document is no longer accessible on the DOJ website. Why would that be there and then disappear? Why is it that one day there's like 5,000 records listed, again, unredacted, and then the next day there's 3,000? On Sunday, again, this is in his words, Roger Sollenberger, I reported that the FBI interviewed a victim who accused the president. Trigger warnings, okay? I'll do my best to try to get through this. There's nothing extremely graphic here, but trigger warnings in general. If you need to scroll away, please do. On Sunday, I reported that the FBI interviewed a victim who accused President Trump of sexually and violently assaulting her when she was 13 years old. I reported that some of the Justice Department's case files for this woman, who later sued and reportedly received a settlement from the JE estate for abuse allegations in the same time frame, appear now to be missing from the government's publicly searchable Epstein database. However, I've now found DOJ records showing that the FBI did not just interview this woman once. The FBI interviewed this woman who claimed that Trump forced her to give him oral when she was in her early teens and punched her in the head after she bit his penis and kicked her out. They interviewed her 4 times. 4 times. Why would they interview her 4 times if they did not think her to be credible? The DOJ's file associated with those records, a document cataloging information that the government provided counsel for the convicted Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell during her trial, has been apparently removed. Once again, this information, these credible witness statements, because we believe women and girls in this case, this information, this paragraph again, the DOJ's file associated with those records, a document cataloging information that the government provided counsel for convicted Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell during her trial, that they used to convict her, has suddenly been removed. This revelation adds to the mounting pile of evidence undermining statements of Attorney General Pam Bondi and other senior administration officials assuring the public that the e-file release has been transparent, complete, and bereft of any evidence implicating Trump's wrongdoing. How? But my initial report also raised questions about files associated with the victim's case number 3501.045. So if you go to the DOJ's website, you can type that in, 3501.045, that do not appear to be in the Epstein database. In other words, the case seems to be incomplete. Shocker. Quick background on the first report by the accuser. If you need it, if not, feel free to skip this paragraph. He's summarizing. His reporting showed that the FBI found this woman's allegations credible enough to warrant a formal interview, which she gave with her attorney present in July 2019. And now, as I've just learned, credible enough for 3 other interviews. The woman's attorney told agents in the first interview that she would only speak to them at the time about Epstein and not any other people, including by name Donald Trump, specifying the reason as a fear of retaliation. But credible doesn't mean the woman's claims were verified or even that they could be independently verified, which her initial interview suggests may be impossible, since she did not memorialize the abuse in writing when it happened to her as early as age 13. And it doesn't mean the DOJ believed it could seek charges because of her claims alone, especially since they'd need her to cooperate as a witness if they did want to bring charges. Don't forget, they used her statements. I think this is the smoking gun, as far as I'm concerned. There's so many. The DOJ used this information as part of their investigation in Maxwell. This information, these interviews with this person, was given to the prosecutors in the Maxwell case. They found it credible enough to convict her. These are part of this investigation. So if we're talking about credible allegations, I believe women. I believe girls. They're talking about allegations. This is what the right's been holding on to. There's nothing in these files that is credible. Well, I don't know how else you could see this as anything other than that. Because in other words, everything then in the files are just allegations. So here's the question that we need, that people who are defending this need to answer. How do you proceed in court for anything? You could be in a lineup, right? Someone could say, that person looks like somebody that I saw steal a car. That's an allegation at that point, right? That is just an allegation. What happens with said allegation? You form a case. You try to get as much evidence as you can. Then you go to court and then you present your evidence, right? You present your evidence, the jury hears both sides, the jury comes to a conclusion, you're guilty or you're not. So then everything is an allegation. And don't forget, the president just a couple days ago came out and said, I've been fully exonerated. How can you be exonerated for something that hasn't been investigated? Just because somebody says you're exonerated? It doesn't work that way. This is why we say the entire thing is fucking crumbling. Today, he searched for the victim's case in an AI-powered database, epstein-data.com, of the files that has been downloaded at some point from the DOJ's publicly released data. That turned up a document that he hadn't seen before, showing that the FBI conducted not 1, but 4 interviews with this victim. The 4 interviews took place in the summer of 2019 after the initial tip was given in the days following Epstein's arrest. The document also accounts for the FBI for, quote, interviewing notes associated with 3 of those 4 interviews There's a screenshot. The only reason the public can see the screenshot is because in late January, the Epstein database document happened to get saved in the Wayback Machine, a web page archiving service. The AI database also saved this file before the document was taken down, etc., etc., etc. However, thanks to the Internet Archive, the document does live on. Plug the address into the Wayback Machine. We can give you some instructions as to how this works. I think we'll do that, actually. Other manifests of witness statements in the Maxwell trial known as Case 3500, which begin with the number 3502, the now inaccessible spreadsheet catalogs non-testifying witness material that federal prosecutors provided to Maxwell's defense in November of 2021. Again, here we are. Credible evidence. Why is it no longer there? Why are witness testimonies not there? Survivor testimonies. Why have they vanished? We all know why. We all know why. Because the president has got dirt on his hands. I don't even know what else to say. It's not going to, it doesn't matter unless we get some 23 members of Congress, members of the House to vote to impeach, and enough senators. I think the number will be 23. Assuming you get every Democrat, you're going to need to get to 66, 67, 2/3. Right? So fucking disturbing. And that brings us to the Les Wexner deposition, right? That happened yesterday. Everybody keep tapping and sharing, please. I appreciate you all very much. Don't forget, there is a gifting goal. You want to contribute to that. We are marching towards our goal for the Do Something Tour. We stand at $2,178. Thank you to everybody who's donated so far. Thank you very much. So, questions that members of Congress asked Ohio billionaire Les Wexner on Wednesday didn't just touch on his business relationship with convicted offender J.E., but Wexner's relationship with the president, how close he was with Epstein, and whether the two had a sexual relationship, because that's one of the allegations that came out in the files. The questioning took place at Wexner's estate in New Albany, adjoining property where Epstein once lived, which with details supplied to NBC4 by a person familiar with the deposition and conducted by members of the House Oversight Committee. Democrat members were there. Staff members who represent Republicans were there. No Republicans showed up. Mr. Wexner, this is a statement from Mr. Wexner's team. Mr. Wexner honestly answered every question put to him today by the committee, a spokesperson for Mr. Wexner said after the 6-hour deposition. Mr. Wexner reiterated that he has no knowledge of and did not participate in Epstein's illegal conduct. He stands by that fervently. Only some of the Democratic committee members attended in person, with staff members appearing on behalf of some Republicans. After hours of questioning, the 5 Democrats in attendance spoke to reporters about how the process was going with Wexner, who is rarely seen in public. Let's listen to their statements.
Today, this New Albany property was center stage for intense questioning about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
The man answering the questions, one of the most prominent figures in Central Ohio, Les Wexner. And we've now learned the deposition has ended after 6 hours of questioning.
A House Oversight Committee spokesperson says Wexner answered every question, and they plan to release video and a transcript soon.
The New Albany billionaire has long been connected to Epstein. Wexner has never been charged in connection with Epstein's crimes and maintains he was unaware of them.
But the lawmakers who came to Central Ohio are not letting Wexner push aside his alleged connections.
There is no single person that was more involved in providing Jeffrey Epstein with the financial support to commit his crimes than Les Wexner.
We have met with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the rich and powerful people that helped to perpetuate these crimes. And we have heard over and over from these victims the name of Les Wexner and the importance of following the money.
We thank you for joining us here on NBC4 at 5. I'm Jared Smith.
So again, this guy's connected. He's just sitting in his cozy apartment, right? Just, can just dodge questions. Clintons are going to testify. So people want to rail on the Clintons, and I don't give a fuck if Bill's fucking guilty of crime, throws ass in fucking jail. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. They're willing to testify. They say, yeah, we'll do it in public. And where is that? Where's the push? Where's the push from the conservatives to say, well, how about everybody else? Why is Howard Nutlick not being grilled again? He will be. Why is Pam Bondi not being grilled again? Where's Kash Patel? Where's Kash Patel? Why is he not being dragged again? Where are all of them? I don't know. I don't get it. I'm so fucking tired of this bullshit. So tired of it. Funky Town, how are you today? Good morning. Funky Town? Good morning. Hello. Progressive in your pocket, saying goodbye. Okay. Thanks for being here, friends. Appreciate you guys very, very much. Let's get into a couple other things. There was a, well, let me do this first. I think it's a good time for it. 9 o'clock. I wanted to have this conversation. I've been wanting to have this for a long time because I've always imagined what our country would look like if we were a matriarchy. So I just asked, I gave a prompt to ChatGPT because I was just curious, right? I said, forget everything you know about me, because if you can train ChatGPT, I don't use it a lot, but I use it for things like this because I think it's sometimes I'll use it to organize, but I like this because you can just prompt it. And I just like, okay, let's see what it says. Forget everything you know about me and tell me what you think the U.S. would look like if it were more of a matriarchal society. If the United States were more of a matriarchal society, it would not simply mean women in charge. Anthropologists define matriarchal systems as societies where women hold primary leadership roles in political or moral authority, lineage and inheritance pass through the mother, matrilineal, social norms prioritize caregiving, community cohesion, and interdependence, and then power structures are more often distributed than hierarchical. Here's what it might look like, okay? Political leadership and governance. Majority female representation in Congress, governorships, and the presidency. Greater emphasis on consensus building over adversarial politics. Longer deliberation processes before major decisions, especially war. Anybody oppose any of that? Okay. Research on legislative behavior suggests that women lawmakers, on average, are more likely to sponsor social welfare, health care, and education bills. Can we just stop right there? Move on? Everybody have a good day. Good to see you. Research, again, more likely to sponsor social welfare, health care, and education bills. A matriarchal shift might produce expanded child care infrastructure. Anybody opposed to that? Paid family leave as a default norm, meaning that that's just part of the deal. You're always going to get paid family leave because that just becomes the system. And then more investment in preventative health care. Foreign policy could trend toward diplomacy-first frameworks, though this does not mean weakness. On the contrary, many historical matriarchal societies were highly organized and extremely capable of defense. Economic structure. A matriarchal U.S. might value caregiving labor. Value caregiving labor. Parenting, elder care, child care. That would be the economic investment. Redesign work culture around flexibility rather than long-hour competition. Shrink the wage gap and normalize part-time leadership roles. You know how we often discuss, we talk in this space often about how a system reset, like a full-on system reset. I also asked a hypothetical, and the next round would be, what would it look like if we had this? What would it look like in 2050, for example? We'll go through that in a minute, and that's even fucking better. It's the progressive utopia, literally. And, again, we can look at countries and societies and human existence throughout humanity, and we can see the societies that are much more matriarchal, and they're just better. They're just better. There's no, I guess it's better for people who believe in humanity, better for people who believe in social safety nets and prioritize the things that should matter more than anything else. other than saber rattling and fucking spanking it. A matriarchal U.S. might, again, value caregiving labor, redesign work culture around flexibility rather than long-hour competition, and then shrink the wage gap and normalize part-time leadership roles. Corporate models might shift from aggressive growth at all costs, because that's how it is now. Again, corporate models might shift from aggressive growth at all costs toward sustainability metrics, including environmental stewardship, employee well-being, and then community reinvestment. GDP might not be the dominant measure of success. Broader well-being indexes could matter more. I mean, what? Okay. Family and social norms. You'd likely see matrilineal inheritance traditions as opposed to, your lineage passes, well, your DNA, your biological lineage passes through both your parents, but the hierarchical lineage goes through your mom and not your dad. Children more commonly taking the mother's surname, stronger communal child rearing networks. This surname thing to me is kind of like whatever. I know a lot of families just take names. I don't think, again, that's the patriarchy talking. It's part of the SAVE Act bullshit that we're going through right now, but wouldn't that be interesting? Right? Your lineage is connected to the mother, as it should be. Stronger communal child rearing networks. Fatherhood would of course matter deeply, but just in a different way. Violence prevention programs and restorative justice systems might expand significantly. Healthcare and education. Reproductive autonomy as a central policy. Maternal health as a national priority. Mental health integrated into primary care. Education might emphasize collaboration over competition, emotional intelligence curriculum, and then civic engagement and community responsibility. No notes. Military and the justice system. Defense would likely still exist, but military leadership structures could flatten. Veterans care would receive the strongest support and long-term support over the life of the veteran. And restorative justice might replace some punitive incarceration models. Prison populations would decline if emphasis shifted towards rehabilitation. Cultural shifts. Media and entertainment might center relational storytelling over dominance narratives, normalize caregiving as heroic, reduce glorification of hyperviolence. Masculinity would not disappear, but its definition sure would. We could talk about a few of these. I'm going to spend some time talking about a lot of these because the bulk of the most successful, matriarchy societies, of course, we can point to indigenous communities like the Haudenosaunee, I had the pronunciation earlier. Now I can't pronounce it. Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Iroquois. Lineage passed through the mother. Children belonged to the mother's clan. Longhouses were organized by maternal lines, and then property, especially agricultural land, was controlled by the women. Think about the whole, the patriarchal approach to the dowry. Women were expected to give up their dowry to their husband. Like, you get the keys to the car. You get everything. You get everything. Not in a matriarchy. Nope. Clan mothers appointed and removed male chiefs. If a chief acted unjustly or failed the people, the clan mother could depose him. Women had decisive influence in matters of war and peace. In the economy, women controlled agriculture, corn, beans, squash. They were called the Three Sisters. This agricultural base gave women real economic leverage. In the Cherokee Nation, a lot of similarities. Clan membership was matrilineal. Property and homes belonged to women. Children remained with the mother's family after separation or divorce. Women participated in councils. Beloved women held diplomatic and moral authority, and women could intervene in decisions regarding captives and warfare. European colonization and forced assimilation policies gradually pushed Cherokee society towards the patriarchy. Shocker! The Navajo Nation. Strong matrilineal clan systems, property, especially sheep and homes, traditionally passed through women. men moved into the wife's household after their marriage. Women often manage household economies, clan identity determines social relationships, and marriage rules. Today, matrilineal identity remains culturally central, even though the U.S. legal system overlays it. There was an established society through the indigenous populations in our country, right? Established. They were matriarchies. They were functioning, they were working, they were effective, they were powerful. And then what happened? European colonizers commit acts of genocide, right? And then say, no, 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 we're the ones that are now in charge. We being the bloodthirsty men. Hopi tribe. Matrilineal inheritance again. Houses were owned by women. Men moved into their wives' homes. See that a lot, actually. I was curious about that. I didn't really think about that part of it, probably because of the patriarchy, but that was an interesting element, right? It became desirable to move into your new wife's home because that's the center of the entire tribe, so to speak. Spiritual authority often intertwined with clan lineage, and then women's role in agricultural cycles was central and essential. Common features across all of these societies: land and food production tied to women's authority, male political leadership balanced by female oversight. Yes, you can still be the chief, but listen, chief, if you're doing a shitty-ass fucking job, I'm taking your feathers. Consensus government over winner-take-all politics, clan identity prioritized over nuclear family individualism. Divorce was less stigmatized because economic survival didn't depend solely on husbands. If the U.S. adopted elements of these models, it might mean that family identity linked more to a maternal lineage, political leaders accountable to a non-elected elder or community council, agriculture and environmental stewardship prioritized, more distributed authority structures. No one person. A communal approach to governing, a communal approach to education, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. This is a speculative day in the life. This was fascinating to me, right? So all they did is they just gave a scenario of what it would look like in 2050. America, 2050, a Tuesday under the matriarchal norms. 6:30 a.m., morning at home. Last names commonly follow maternal lines. Children grow up closely connected to maternal grandparents and extended kin networks. Multi-generational housing is normal, not a financial emergency. Work schedules are built around caregiving. Most professionals, including executives and members of Congress, operate on a 30 to 35-hour standard work week. Remote and hybrid are default, meaning that that's where it starts. Caregiving labor is publicly valued. Every household receives a caregiving credit. Applies to parenting, elder care, disability support, etc. It counts towards Social Security and retirement. We had a conversation yesterday with a couple of caregivers, right? Caregivers don't get credit. Caregivers aren't eligible for benefits in some cases, sure, but not in most cases. So this is the default model. If you are a caregiver, children, elder care, disability, it becomes a profession, right? That is prioritized. W-2'd, Social Security access. These are the things, right? 8:30. Again, they're just doing the hypothetical time. Now they're talking about how this would break down over the course of a day in 2050. 8:30, governance in action. Congress is now, this is in 2050. Congress is now 60% women. But more importantly, leadership culture has shifted. Before a major vote, legislation goes through a community review panel. Citizens' assemblies balanced by age, gender, and region. These panels don't replace Congress, but no major bill reaches the floor without a structured listening process. Political debates are less performative. Floor speeches are shorter. Committee work is longer. Approval ratings aren't based on strength rhetoric. They're based on trust metrics, public well-being indicators, environmental impact, and child poverty rates. 10 o'clock, corporate America. Quarterly earnings calls still happen, but corporate boards are required to include worker representatives and community seats. Somebody who's been in corporate America as a C-suiter, it was always was always the, it was the chief executives for the company and the board members, at least it was in my organization. And there was always this question about, I did some research on that, and like, why do we not have employee representatives here? Well, this would be a default in a matriarchy. Again, quarterly earnings calls still happen, but corporate boards are required to include worker representatives and community seats. CEO compensation rates are capped at 40 to 1. Right now, it's like, what, 1,500 to 1? Okay. Success metrics include employee retention. Family leave utilization. Wow. Carbon neutrality. And then community investment. Aggressive takeover culture fades after aggressive takeover culture faded after repeated public backlash in the 2030s. So, right? No more mergers and acquisitions, all that bullying people, corporate espionage, whatever that might be. Here we are. We're just going to look at our company better. We're going to talk about retention. We're going to talk about employee worth and value and how we pay people. 12:30, education. Buckle up. Schools emphasize collaboration over ranking. Students take, conflict resolution classes, civic dialogue, media literacy, cooperative economics. Athletics still exist, but youth sports culture prioritizes participation over hyper competition. Title IX expanded into care equity policy, funding after-school caregiving programs and mentorships equally. 3 p.m., the justice system. The prison population is significantly smaller. Nonviolent offenses are diverted into restorative justice programs where community panels, often led by elder women, mediate accountability and restitution. Violent crime still exists. The system still prosecutes, but rehabilitation is heavily funded and recidivism rates drop below 20%. I know, Lulu, I know. It's emotional because this is not, these things exist in other parts of the world. You look at DSA countries, or democratic socialist countries. These are the priorities that they make, and they're not all matriarchies, but they're heavily influenced by matriarchal values. These things, this is not imaginary. In this scenario, it's a hypothetical because I asked the question, but why is this so out of reach? As we've been discussing the past couple of days, there has to be a willingness to be patient. This is why we discussed harm reduction for the past 2 days. And I know it's been a volatile topic, and I get it. I completely understand. I totally understand that, and I respect it, which is why I love this community so much. But these are the kinds of things that if we are willing to invest, you can look back, whether you believe in reincarnation or whatever. Imagine what it would be like in 30 years if we were committed to doing something like this, restructuring government that leans in on care, that leans in on compassion, that leans in on prioritizing, that leans in on prioritizing community and family and health and education. I know the bots are angry today because they don't know what to do. We can't let the women be in charge. Why not? It's not even about let. It's about build a system where they can be. Right now, no. We did the justice system. Foreign policy. This is 5 p.m. in this hypothetical. The president meets with an international coalition. Defense spending still exists, but it represents a significantly smaller percentage of our GDP. The U.S. then prioritizes, from a foreign policy perspective, climate stabilization treaties, maternal health partnerships abroad, and then conflict de-escalation frameworks. War is not off the table. It can't be, but it requires a supermajority in Congress plus a national consultation process. 7:30 p.m., media and culture. Entertainment shifts tone. Reality TV based on humiliation fades. Popular shows now center on community building, intergenerational storytelling, and then problem-solving competitions. Violence in media exists, but it's not glamorized in the same way. Masculinity has broadened, but emotional fluency is now the normal, and then paternity leave is assumed. Here's a little secret, dudes. This is what you don't get in this. In a matriarchy, you would get to do more things that are more important, like spend time with your kids, like spend time with your family, like not have to be a slave to the man, so to speak, that your time would be valued. And you'd learn what emotional intelligence is. It sounds utopic because it is, but it's take a family vacation. Take a family vacation without having to worry about it. This 2050 didn't happen because women took over. It happened because care labor was economically valued. Political incentives rewarded consensus. Community accountability replaced hyper-individualism. Masculinity evolved alongside femininity, and then power became more distributed. What hasn't changed? Political disagreements, they'll still happen. Corruption will still exist. It's just significantly less tolerated. Economic inequality hasn't vanished, but it's significantly narrower. And then human ego remains human. A matriarchal America isn't utopia. It's simply less dominance-oriented and more relationally organized. Fuck. It's not even about the wholesale changes. You know, it doesn't have to be like this, because nothing I described there is a wholesale change. It's just a shift in priorities. Because if you shift in priorities to things that are more caregivers focused, education focused, equality focused, right? Those are just those that have a tendency to be more matriarchal than they are currently. It works, friends. It works. Which is, think about this, right? So if you pull this thread, here we go. Why do you think you hear Christian nationalists saying they don't want women to vote? Why do you think they say that? Why do you think they want to pass legislation like the SAVE Act? It's not about election integrity. They just don't want women to vote. They just don't. Queens, they are afraid of you. They are so fucking scared of you. Give them a reason to be scared, is what I say. This goes back to do something, right? Doesn't matter what it is. I can address white men and I can have a conversation with white women, but I need other white women to remind their kind what's at stake here. If these are the things that you want, if these are the things that you care about, if these are the things that you consider prioritizing, if you will, it's going to take patience, but you got to do it now. I don't consider this utopic. I don't. Utopia would be something you couldn't imagine. I can imagine a system in education where your priority, I read the education part. I'm like, has this guy been inside my fucking brain? Education, they would focus on conflict resolution, civic dialogue, media literacy, and cooperative economics. Along those lines comes critical thinking. It's all one big fucking happy family. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me? I'm in my garage.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. I love this. And don't worry, y'all. I'm not going to turn my camera on in a sports bar and yell. I promise. I was listening. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I am going to go out. Let me go in my house and connect to my Wi-Fi really quick. Hold on, because I'm going to cut out. I already did. Hold on. Okay, good. You can hear me now.
Yeah, gotcha.
When you were reading through that, just evidence of like the wage gap and stuff, I just, food for thought for people who are listening. When we talk about the wage gap, even between industries, the man-dominated field of like valet or washing vehicles pays more than the woman-dominated field of watching children.
Correct.
I think that is that says a lot right there. And it has to do with what we are assigning values to. And that's really all I wanted to say is that fact. That fact always shocks me. And I think that just says so much. That we value the mediocrity of and I'm not, when I say mediocrity, what I mean is the challenge of watching cars versus not just watching children, but teaching children, directing children. And we've put more value in that. And we've devalued the work that we've put women in to make. And it's just so unbelievably wild. So I just wanted to say that to kind of echo what you're saying. And if we want to see that change, like what Steve's reading is just absolute truth. And that's really all I had to say. So,
I mean, and again, I mean, no system is perfect. It's just about what the prioritizations would be. Like and I think this is what the patriarchy has done, has blinded people, so many, both men and women, is that you don't understand that we would all be better off if we prioritize these things. Like, again, we shouldn't be fighting about food. You know, food isn't right. The prioritization of our education system, our healthcare system. It kind of, you could actually give a nod to the patriarchy. You could say, listen, boys, if you want the best of the best, then let's have the best education system. Let's have the best healthcare system. Let's have the best economic system that benefits the middle class and the working poor. Let's prioritize caregiving over parking cars, for example. Right? It's not that hard to sell it. You just have to sell it as it's a win for them. Right?
That's the key. How do you do that? I mean, that's it right there, is that trying to have these conversations and then understanding who you're having the conversation with and what that looks like, because people are going to receive information differently depending on where they are in their journey, how they've been raised. I mean, it's really hard to even go into some of these conversations because you're kind of going into them blindly. Yeah. You don't know you don't know who they are, what they've heard. And it's important to understand who you're talking about. And that's difficult too. And I've learned that through just my own conversations with people, you know, but, yeah, so.
Anyway, and again, I just don't like it phrased as utopia, because utopia would be, from my perspective of utopia was something you just couldn't imagine. Correct. I can imagine this, you know, I can certainly imagine this because we have examples of it, right?
Well, exactly. We've had it at this point in history. And, you know, if anybody's curious, I finally figured out what I wanted to do. And I sat down and I just wrote what's wrong on my Substack, What's Wrong with Men, Part 1. And it starts in utero. And that is what I'm going to move forward kind of talking about. And it's all about, like, the system starts literally in utero when we place the value on our children before they're born and tell them who they are. We can't escape that if boys are born in to the system that we're trying to break down. And then so it's a here we are. I don't know. And I also wanted to say that independent journalism is going to be a huge part in what saves us. And I don't know if y'all follow Boston Brian, but he had a video that I watched yesterday, and he, you know, speaks with a lot of conviction and anger in his Boston accent and stuff. And he's so right. Like people need to be out there recording everything, looking into everything, because they're hiding things from us. And put it out there, put it on the internet. And it was about a woman she started filming somebody, and when they got ICE, and as soon as they saw that they were being filming, they stopped beating the crap out of the guy. And that it's going to save lives. And it's putting us in danger. Like, we have to put ourselves in danger to save those who are in danger, because they're going to either have to kill us all, that's how, I mean, I'm in feral mode too. So, like, just don't fucking mess with me at this point. But
I get it.
You know, we need to see something, say something right now. Everything. Have your cameras on, go out, just film it. Even if it's nothing, just film it. Film it, put it out there. I've been looking through the Epstein files and I'm like, I don't know. People probably seen this. I don't know. I'm still screenshotting everything. I'm just screenshotting things. I don't know what to do, but nothing can be ignored at this point.
Agreed.
Okay. I'll stop rambling.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate you.
All right.
Have a good day.
You
Be
too.
safe
Bye.
out there. All right. Bye. All right. Bye. I agree. I agree. We have become the press, each of us. We have that responsibility now. We've got high-powered devices in our hands. We've got the ability to be in our communities. We're going to see more. Don't forget, news happens, right, in real time. Oftentimes requires a reach out to a news organization to cover it. Cover it yourself. See something, say something. Everybody keep tapping, please. Appreciate you.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for being here. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to play devil's advocate when you were speaking about the matriarchy. And sure. I just wanted to say, how do you convince those women who have been protected by the patriarchy?
It's funny that you say that, because I was thinking about that as well, and I was going to touch on it. So let's touch on it now.
Okay.
That's part of the problem, because as you said, the script says that many women have convinced themselves that leadership is a man's job. Mm-hmm. Like a woman couldn't be president because women saying this. I've heard this. Mm-hmm. A woman couldn't be president because women are too emotional. Because women would start wars. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I'm completely with you. That's the damage of the patriarchy. We know how damaging the patriarchy is to women, obviously. Mm-hmm. It's also damaging to men because of the fact that there's going to be no movement off that place of privilege. Right? So I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
And I say that because we know the demographic of women who have benefited, who have this love-hate relationship, let me say, with patriarchy. I remember I had a live maybe 2 weeks ago, and I said that the patriarchy has protected, excuse me, I get a little tongue-tied. The patriarchy was given to women as protection, but it really was oppression, if that makes sense. I feel like white men use patriarchy as a way of saying that it's going to protect white women from so many things. Like back in the days, like my grandmother used to have to get off the sidewalk when she seen a white person walking on the sidewalk. She could not walk on the same sidewalk as that white woman. So with that particular situation, that is a protection of patriarchy for that particular white woman. But when that white woman goes into her home, the patriarchy oppresses her. And I feel like that is what needs to be recognized, the fact that when it comes to white women, that the patriarchy protects you outside your home. However, it does suppress you and oppresses you inside your home. See, there's that's why I say it's a love-hate relationship with white women when it comes to the patriarchy, because the patriarchy has never protected black women. So it only protected white women. So I feel like if we're going to talk about a matriarchy or, going into that direction, or, if that's where we want to go, then we also need to peel back the layers of the protection of patriarchy when it comes to white women, as well as the oppression of patriarchy when it comes to white women. Because we, as black women and I can only speak as a black woman, as black women, we are aware that the patriarchy of this country does not protect us and don't give a shit about us. But we do know to a point it does protect white women. So if we're going to discuss matriarchy, we also have to talk about the protections that patriarchy has given those white women. And I just feel like we can't skip over that. No, you're fine. I was just saying we just can't skip over that.
No, you're right. And I was thinking about this, it's like you're kind of touching on the trad wife model a little bit. And I'm not here to cast judgment. So I'm hoping I can get a little bit of grace with this particular part of the conversation. The trad wife model is something that perhaps those that participate, those that support it are totally fine with it because they see it as their duty. That script, though, comes from the patriarchy.
Yes,
that's the point.
Yes, right? Yes,
that's the point. Right?
Yes. Yeah. And I also, to bounce off what you just said, what popped up in my head as well is the reason why the nuclear that trad wife tradition came upon is because there was no more indentured servitude when it comes to Black women coming to the household to do the work for the white wife. See, that's what we fail to realize is the connection. You know, the reason why the tradition trad wife thing came up is because there were no more housekeepers. Nobody else was there to take care of your children. So you had no choice but to become a traditional wife because you never had the education to get a job. And if you did, I mean, where are you going to use it? So you were trapped from the patriarchy of your father down to the patriarchy of your lover to now you feel like I'm gonna stay at home. I don't have to go to work because patriarchy made it look like to the white person, the white woman, that work is getting your hands dirty that's not a thing when it comes to white women. And I feel like that's where the patriarchy has put white women in a disadvantage. And I just really want them to recognize that. And I feel like if white women recognizes that, then they will be more welcoming to Black women and being more honest with themselves. Because I feel like white women are not honest with themselves because of the years and years and years and years of indoctrination. So if I hate to say it, but if we're going to do matriarchy if say tomorrow they made a decision, we're going to do a matriarchy, there should be a Black woman in power because she is aware of how the patriarchy don't give a fuck about us before a white woman comes in. And that may be how can I say, troublesome to say. Some people may not, agree with me, but I feel that way. I feel like if you put a white woman in office first, she is going to follow the patriarchy. She can't help but follow the patriarchy because the patriarchy has protected her for so long.
Agreed.
So it should be a person of color that has been going against the patriarchy to be placed in that position to turn over the patriarchy.
Agreed. Completely agree. As always, thank you, my friend.
You're so welcome. You have a good one.
You too. Talk to you later.
Okay.
No notes. I mean, let's be real, right? Good morning. I saw your request. I figured this topic would be something you would like to talk about. How are you?
You knew. Yes, you are absolutely correct. Oh my gosh. So I definitely want to extend what Recovering Perfectionist just said. So in addition to the patriarchy, one thing that white women also do when it comes to dealing with other women is they also feed into the racism. So I am 53 and I've been working since I was 15 and some change. We Gen Xers were working when we were younger. And through my experience, I have been questioned more by white women. I've had sales stolen by them. I have been they work around me suspiciously, meaning they don't trust my ability to lead, my ability to know my job, my ability to get things done. They are hypercritical of simple little things. Even if I'm a department head, even if I'm in charge of something, the undermining, the backbiting, the setting me up for failure, telling me to do something, and then in front of their boss, lying and said that they didn't. So from my experience, because I know, just again, from my experience, and if I speak in general, somebody's gonna get her little panties in a bunch. But let's be real. If we were living in a matriarchal society, looking at what white women have done up to this point, they will tell us what we want to hear. Remember this last election, they had, I don't know if you all remember the commercial where they had the white women in the voting booth. And even though her husband told her to be one way, secretly she's going to vote for Kamala. So what I've seen from their actions is that they will say whatever they need to say to us in the meeting, in public, and then go and do what they selfishly believe is best for them, their families, their people. And if we were to have a matriarchal society and white women were in charge, white women don't know how to pass the mic. They feel like, and they believe, and what I've seen through their actions is they believe they speak for all women, that they can speak from us because it's a female issue. But when we start talking as women who are melanated, and we are the melanated majority, melanated people are the majority of the world. And the moment we start talking about things that impact us, white women tell us, well, that's a racial thing. No. That's not a gender thing. When we start talking about Black issues, and Latin issues and indigenous issues, you all can now enter into the conversation. So not only do they believe that they can speak for all women, they refuse to pass the mic. They also they don't believe in intersectionality. They don't understand that being female and of color, and let's not add disability and being queer and being older than 40 and, all those types. Let's not add those other things. They don't believe that those things play into being a woman, because they believe, well, that's not a gender issue. So if we talk about Black women dying more than any other women in this country in childbirth, that is a Black issue to them. That's not a gender issue. So because I use my ChatGPT too, and her name is Sage, and Sage and I talk almost on a daily basis. And so I love, yes. And so I love the fact that you asked. I think we have to also address the fact that white women play not only into patriarchy, but into racism as well, because you all have been taught that white is right. White is the litmus test. White is the standard. White is the most qualified. Just upon looking, if you and I walk into a room, people are going to talk to you like you're the boss. Automatically. If me and a white woman walk into a room, they're going to talk to her like she's the boss because of the way that you all have been trained. So there has to be work done. White women have their own work to do before they can say that they should be in a position to partner with women of color, because they don't even see us as partners. They can't even see us as equals. They can say it all day long, but let's look at the statistics of who benefited from DEI, who benefited from affirmative action, and then go look at those businesses. All of the board are white women. All of the leadership are white women. All of the employees are white women. And these organizations that benefited from grant money and affirmative action and all of that. When I worked in television news, that was my first professional job because I have a journalism degree. All the producers were white women, except one. She was a Black woman, and they gave that woman hell because she bucked the system and she talked about stories that matter. She didn't fall into line. So I have seen it personally when I worked in retail after losing my job in the media, and I worked in retail. All white women, leadership, the GM, like everybody, because I worked for Bath and Body Works and Aveda and all those other places. And they treated those jobs like it was the government, like they were curing cancer. And so all I'm saying is, if there's going to be any type of unification amongst women in leadership, women of color, we know how to work together. We've been on the same side. Now, the oppression may not be the same, but oppression is oppression. White women would be off in a different sector, believing that they're the leaders and they would want to fill the shoes of white men because they know that in colonized societies, they are number 2 on the totem pole, and they're not going to so easily give that up, because sharing the space with us would seem like they're giving up something, because they're going to be operating from a loss mentality just like white men do. So while white men feel like they're the target right now, once that blows over and things start changing, watch white women start coming up talking about how they are the ones who are the most oppressed, and they're the ones who society's against and all that other stuff. Yeah, so I just want, yes, you know how to get the conversation going. Let me tell you, you know how to get it going. And I love the concept of women being in charge, but white women have work to do. I have this book called, it was created, it was written by the 2 women who did Race to Dinner. I don't know if you're familiar with them, the Black women and the Indian woman. Yeah, so Race, the number 2, and Dinner. They created this dinner to have racial conversations with white women, because white women are taught that you don't disrespect people at the dinner table and you don't get up at the dinner table. So they would have these conversations. White women would pay them to come and talk to them, and they would talk about their own racism. And of course, most of the white women could not deal with it. They didn't want to talk about it and whatnot, but they wrote a book called White Women, the Racism, something to the effect of White Women, the Racism That You Know You Have and How to Confront It, something of that nature. And it is written by them based upon their research with white women. And I think white women need to own where they are, their belief systems, and start deconstructing that in addition to patriarchy, because they can't just deconstruct patriarchy and still have racism on the table, because now they're going to look at us like we're supposed to continue to serve them. And we're there to be second fiddle to them, which is what Hollywood has taught them, which is what white women are now realizing. When all of us get hired for the same job, all of us are qualified, but when we excel, they think it's unfair because they have been taught through movies that the person, the melanated secondary character is always there to serve them. Yeah, you can win, but you can't win more than me. You can do good, but you can't do better than me. So that's my spiel for the day. You always give me a platform. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kima. I appreciate being here, friend. Have a good day. Be safe out there.
You too.
All right, talk to you soon. All right, bye. It's interesting. While she's talking that, I happen to notice some comments go by, and I'm going to make a couple of assumptions here that some of the comments who may not necessarily agree may be coming from white women. And if this bothers you, I would ask you if you are the same people who say it's all men until it's no men, then we have to also apply that to it's all white women until it's not. If you are offended by that, then maybe you need to unpack some things. Maybe you need to unpack some things. I'm not up here to, well, yeah, I am. I'm up here to call out the system, the patriarchy. And that has a negative impact on so many people. But if many of you are here saying, if you were some of the ones that are complaining that I saw some comments said not all white women, well, then would that apply to not all men? It is all men. It's because of the system. It is all men until it's no men. Therefore, if you want to use the same logic, you've got to apply it to your community too. You're not safe in this. You're not immune to judgment. And I just want to make sure that people are willing to accept that. Got to unpack some stuff. Got to unpack. It's not targeted at you as an individual. It's targeted at the system. Unscripted, how are you?
All right, how are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
So, for the past 2 days, I've been at a conference called Apartheid as a Crime Against Humanity, and broadening the definition of apartheid. And you know that I lived through the last days of apartheid in South Africa. And we were talking about these ideas of, not just expanding the definition, but expanding how people think about apartheid as a structural system and how it is baked into coloniality and imperialism. Naturally, the US's UN delegation, who were there, did not like this. And it was a white woman who said, you can't look at coloniality because not all countries who have spatial apartheid went through colonialism. And she used the US as an example. And I said, ma'am, the US is still a colonized country. And they refuse to acknowledge that. And so that kind of mentality will never get us anywhere. While we have these systems that we are facing, especially of the dominant cultural groups and the dominant countries in the world that have far more of a voice at international spaces like the United Nations, we cannot do anything but civil disobedience. Do not adhere to the system. And it's fighting in your own way, be it starting an entire organization within your school district, just as an example. And everything to avoid armed resistance, because armed resistance is where the most vulnerable become even more vulnerable. So I am not an accelerationist by any means, but we have to look at community care. And community care starts with building communities, doing something. And I love the Hamilton reference, by the way. I watched it recently.
Thank you, Sam. You can thank Sam for that.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. But what we actually decided toward the end of the day yesterday is that we need to reframe our understanding of colonialism and what it has done to the world and how we are still colonized in so many different ways. And breaking down that coloniality piece by piece. What systems are colonized? How can we decolonize them? And unfortunately, the publication that I used to write for up until yesterday, we got news that it's closing down. So,
oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's Board Panda Daily. It's completely shutting down. They decided to get into hard news and political stuff, and the project kind of failed. So, yeah, back to the drawing board. But it really is in the hands of our communities, independent journalists, people who are telling the truth. The truth is no longer just written by the victors. The truth is written, history is written by the people who write it, because we have so much more access now. So document everything.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. I appreciate you for being here, and good luck with things. I hope everything stabilizes for you. I appreciate.
I'll get in touch.
Have a good day.
Maybe we can do something.
Sure. Let me know. Either Discord or just direct message me. But thank you. I appreciate you being here. Thanks a lot, Unscripted. Talk to you soon.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you. Something she said too. I mean, this is the colonization aspect, right? We described indigenous communities, tribal nations that were here, and they were functioning as a matriarchy. That's the impetus of these generational indigenous families and tribes and the clans. They were matriarchies. That was it. And then the colonization changed all that. And here we are. If I misgendered you, I apologize. Not my intent. So people in the chat, I think you might have some unpacking to do a little bit today. Maybe there's an opportunity here to grow and learn a little bit. Mama, how are you this morning? Mama, are you there? Mama Leah? Are you there? I guess not. Okay, guess not. Let's see, Jesse. Jesse, how are you? Jesse, are you there? Jesse, are you there? I guess not. There may be an opportunity for some folks. I mean, if you would disagree on this topic, I understand, but ask yourself what it is that you're disagreeing to, right? And I want to use that the scenario that I described earlier. If you are often saying it's all men until it's no men, which I agree, by definition, that does not mean that it's every man. It's just the system. Therefore, it's all men until it's no men. So if you are one of those people that are saying that, and then you are now suddenly triggered by the fact that white women have a lot of responsibility to help fix this thing, therefore it's all white women until it's not, then you can't have it both ways. This is not meant for judgment. This is just meant for an understanding of the system that we're in. Across the board, the benefits, I'm not going to, I want to be careful how I say this. Listen, if the trad wife model works for you, then that's your belief. Then that's fine. I'm not going to judge that. Not something I would ever agree with. If that's what you want, then that's what you want. But you have to understand that perpetuates the patriarchy, right? Because your job as a trad wife is to make sure that your partner, husband, gets everything that they need. But what about your needs? You're there for his emotional support. Well, who's going to support you emotionally? Who's going to provide you that emotional support? Just think. I'm just asking people to think. This is why we have these conversations. It's not always comfortable. That's the point. First time I heard that it's all men until it's no men, I was like, well, that's not true. And then I'm like, oh yeah, actually it is. It just requires a little bit of, don't make it so personally. I guess I should say, don't take it so personally. Just kind of unpack it a little bit and be like, all right, what does this mean? And am I perpetuating this? And what Kima said about just the systems itself. All the producers were white women except for one, and the black woman got the shit? Shocker. Doesn't have to be like that. If it's uncomfortable, and that's the point. It's exactly the point. last couple of days, we've had uncomfortable conversations. I'm not afraid to have them. Are you? We have 1,500 people in here. Are you uncomfortable having these conversations? Don't be. Don't be uncomfortable. Well, actually, be uncomfortable. That's growth, right? You can't move through things until you're uncomfortable. If it's always perfect, if it's always easy, that's privilege, right? That's the point. That's what privilege is. And we got to unpack some shit. So I got a little bit more on this because there's a development time that goes between the evolution of our society in 2050, but what would happen on the way? If the U.S. were to move toward a matriarchal norms between 2026 and 2040, it wouldn't look like a revolution. It would look like a series of policy shifts, demographic changes, cultural conflicts, and generational turnover. This is the particular, actually, somebody's got requested. Let me, one more request and then we'll get back into this. Everybody keep tapping, please. Don't forget, we are crowdfunded. You want to support the channel, help us get our Do Something goal, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, thank you. Succubus, how are you today?
I'm well, Steve. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
So for some of the people in the chat that are having a hard time dealing with this, you know, it's that knee-jerk reaction that you have. You're like, oh, I'm not racist. That doesn't apply to me. Why do I feel? And I felt the same way, you know, a few years back when the big, you know, white privilege thing was going around the internet. And, you know, I had to sit with that for a second because I was like, no, that's not me. I didn't have privilege. And it wasn't until I, you know, shut the fuck up and listened for a second and heard somebody be like, okay, if you get pulled over by a cop, you're not scared of for your life. And I'm like, yeah. So, and I mean, that was the one that like really made me get the point of the privilege part.
Sure.
And even now, like I'm still unpacking. You know, I'm a 44-year-old white woman. I'm still unpacking because I wasn't raised in a house where like any of this was acceptable, you know, but you still have that internalized teaching through the media and just the way that this country operates, that you have some sort of superiority to another person. And I have caught myself on a few times being like, oh, well, why is this person? Because, and I'm like, wait, that's wrong. Why am I thinking that? And you literally have to just like really sit with it and be uncomfortable. Like, where is this coming from? Why do I feel this way? Instead of just like knee-jerk reaction, be like, nope, that's not me. Progress isn't going to happen if we don't look into the uncomfortable feelings.
Correct.
And, you know, there's a lot of like this bro code that we've heard about for years. There's like the boys club, all of that stuff. We need a girls club across the board. We need to support each other like they support each other. There's power in numbers. You know, I don't want to get into like all like the psychology of it, but ladies, we're better than the men. I'm sorry. We handle things. We're better than the men. We handle things so much better. We can multitask better. I mean, look at everything that they ask us to do on a daily, even if it's just as simple as, honey, where are the keys? Where did I leave my shoes? Like I'm sorry, but like, what would they do without us? One, not survive because we are the givers of life. So there's that. And, you know, that's why in the beginning, it was matriarchal. Because if you don't know this idea of God and all that jazz that people believe in, you're going to look at this person who is pushing out another life and going, oh my goodness, that is incredible. I can't do that. They are creating a whole nother person. And we need to sit with that also and realize that we have this power, this feminine energy that can be so positive if we would just get out of each other's way, if we would link arms and go together and push this patriarchy back. Because that's what they've done to us. So let's all get together, ladies. Let's support each other. Let's not tear each other down. There is enough seats at the table.
If there's not enough seats, just make more seats.
Yeah, we can make more seats. We'll extend the table. Let's go.
Thank you for jumping in today. I appreciate you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Chad. Bye.
You got it. Talk to you later. Bye. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Bring your chair and make it fit. If you're like anything else, many people have touched on this morning, you should, if this makes you feel uncomfortable, then that's something you might want to unpack. If you feel attacked, then that's something that you might want to consider unpacking. Has anybody said something this morning that has triggered you? Apparently so, right? Apparently so. Apparently it's been triggering. Ask yourself why. Did I say, or did anybody say you as an individual are the problem? No. The system is the problem. And I want to use this scenario. If you are sitting there saying it's all men until it's no men, and I agree, then you also have to accept the fact that in this situation, especially since there's a lot of apprehension and resistance and perhaps some uncomfortableness from white women, if we say it's all white women until it's not, then you've got to accept that. Because it's really no different. It's the system we're talking about here, right? It's the system. So just amazing guests. I love this community so much. Okay, so let's go now to the growth. We talked about what it would look like in 2050, and we're all like, yes. I saw people saying, I'm crying. I'm like, yeah, I get it. So bumpy to get there. If the U.S. were moved to a more traditional matriarchal norms between 2026 and 2040, it wouldn't look like a revolution. It would look like a series of policy shifts, demographic changes, cultural conflicts, and generational turnover. Phase 1, 2026 to 30, care economy becomes political. What changes first? The shift begins not with ideology, but with economics. There becomes a severe childcare shortages, elder care crisis as boomers age, workforce participation dips, and then states compete to attract families. Bipartisan pressure builds around paid family leave, universal pre-K, expanded child tax credits, caregiver social security credits. So to turn this to politics for just a second, as we discussed the past couple of days, if you got a choice between a Democrat and a Republican come election day, which party is more likely to support paid family leave, universal pre-K, expanded child tax credits, and caregiver social security credits? That would be harm reduction. It's not that complicated when you start to break this stuff down. These reforms are framed not as matriarchal, but as pro-family, pro-worker, pro-growth. I like that messaging. Pro-family, pro-worker, pro-growth. Right? Cultural flashpoints. Backlash rhetoric about family structure, debate over gender roles intensifies, and then social media amplifies conflict. So what this section is about, as we are marching towards this, some people claim utopia. I just say this is what's just best for everybody. There's going to be steps. So they're talking about like the next 4 years as these things start to bubble and how we address them. Backlash rhetoric about family structure, debate over gender roles intensifies, and then social media amplifies conflict. But younger voters, millennials and Gen Z, increasingly prioritize flexibility, mental health, work-life balance, climate policy. Again, I ask you, if you are faced with a choice to vote between two political parties and you want flexibility, you want focus on mental health, you want focus on a work-life balance, and you want focus on climate policy, which of the two major political parties are you going to vote for? Harm reduction. Women surpass men in college completion by an even wider margin, feeding long-term leadership pipeline changes. Narrow that down a little bit more. Again, it's black women leading. Phase 2, 2030 to 2034. Institutional representation shifts. By the early 2030s, women approach or surpass 50% of Congress. Several major corporations have majority female boards. States adopt ranked choice voting or open primaries, favoring coalition builders over ideological hardliners. Anybody disagree with any of that? I mean, We talk about ranked choice all the time. Once again, if you want those things, harm reduction is your only option. Governance culture evolves. Legislative processes become more deliberative because diverse caucuses form issue-based alliances. Women lawmakers are statistically more likely to work across party lines, as current data already shows. Strength rhetoric begins losing electoral potency in suburban districts. Policy milestones. Possible national level reforms. This shit. Permanent paid family leave. Whether it be a constitutional amendment or whatever, but permanent. Federal child care subsidy model. Expanded reproductive health care protections. National elder care workforce programs. Once again, harm reduction. What am I reading? So somebody asked a question. I just asked ChatGPT to say, what would a matriarchy look like and how would we get there? I asked it to forget everything it knows about me, so I trained it to answer this. I did it in 2 sections to say, okay, what would it look like? In 2050, it said this is what it would look like. Now we're going through the exercise of what's required to get us there. That's what I'm reading. Again, permanent paid leave, federal child care subsidy models, expanded reproductive health care protections, and the National Elder Care Workforce Program. How do we get any of that if conservatives are still in power? We can't. Phase 3, 2034 to 2037. Masculinity becomes redefined. The cultural shift becomes the bigger story. Paternity leave becomes socially accepted. Because right now it's not. It's just not. Men increasingly enter nursing, education, and social work. Not that it doesn't happen now, but I think the point here is it becomes because society, stigmatization doesn't say those fields are for women, more men enter those fields. Brief story. I think I've told you guys this before. When my daughter was sick the first time, actually the second time, when she was she had inpatient stays for her cancer, for chemo and radiation. And I remember being on the 5th floor in the cancer unit that we were at, and all the rooms were filled. There's 13 rooms. Every room was filled with kids that were going through the similar battles as my daughter was. And I was the only dad there. And I didn't really notice it. This is not about me. I'm making a point here. I didn't really notice it until there was one stark example when there was a clown had come in to play music for the kids. And they gathered the kids in the little playroom, and I'm looking around and I'm like, I am the only dad. And then eventually I started to see one or more show up, and I'm like, what's going on? I notice you're not here very much. He's like, yeah, I can't get the time off and it's tough. I've got to pay the bills. And it never really registered with me about that issue, right? And that becomes the problem that this is addressing, right? Where paternity leave becomes a priority. Like it's accepted, it's expected that dads will stay home. And this, listen, patriarchy is incredibly damaging to men, no doubt about it. And eventually more fathers showed up, and then that turned into me leading a men's group, because if I found men don't really have outlets to share these kinds of things. And some of those people that I made friends with, 10 years ago now, I'm still friends with today. Those are these little men's groups that I formed offline and online about understanding. A lot of these men are like, fuck, man, I had no fucking idea. Because for me, I'm like, there's nothing more important than you spending time with your kid. I was grateful to be employed by a company at the time who supported what I was going through and my family was going through. But it became this just obvious, like, why are men not here? Because they're told that they're not supposed to be. And I saw some of those dads with their kids, and they were incredibly amazing dads. It's hard for me to talk about that time. Give me a second. Amazing dads, making paper airplanes. We were joking about stealing chocolate milk from the refrigerator and doing covert wheelchair races down the hall. And it was just more and more of these things where society just told men they can't do this. All it took was one other dad to say, why? Why can't you do those things? I get it. Everybody's circumstances are different. I totally understand. But this is the patriarchy. This is what's happened. And there are a lot of good men out there. We all know that. There are a lot of good men out there. And I just, we've fallen into this trap because we're told how we're supposed to be. I've said this to you guys before. Society tells men the only emotion you're able to show outwardly is anger and lust. What about human emotions? Sadness, joy, depression, whatever that might be. The patriarchy, the weight of the patriarchy is telling you love. Yeah, the patriarchy is telling you that you can't do those things, which leads to all kinds of other issues. Anyway, masculinity redefined. Paternity leave becomes socially expected. Men increasingly enter nursing, education, social work. Mental health services expanded dramatically. Sports culture remains intense, but youth programs focus more on injury prevention and long-term well-being. Pop culture evolves. Fewer dominance-based reality formats, more cooperative storytelling formats. There is still backlash, but it becomes generational rather than partisan. Okay, well, now we're at 2037. This is phase 4, 2037 to 2040. Structural governance reform. This is where the deeper matriarchal norms emerge. Number 1, consensus mechanisms. Citizen assemblies or deliberative panels become normalized before major federal legislation. This is like the true concept of we the people, right? So again, possible, not under the current conditions, but doable, sure. I should say probable, no. Possible, yes. Citizen assemblies or deliberative panels become normalized before major legislation. Pick a major piece of legislation. Tax policy. Okay? You have a panel led by women that investigate what this means to all the communities. Non-elected. Okay? They are there based on their experience, based on their industry, the communities that they represent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you're like, yeah, no. Nope. Back to the drawing board. Military and foreign policy. Defense remains strong, but war authorization thresholds increase. Diplomacy budgets rise relative to defense spending. Justice reform. Restorative justice expands. Prison population declines due to sentencing reform and diversion programs. Economics metric shift. The GDP is supplemented by national well-being indexes. For example, child poverty, maternal mortality, environmental resilience, and then community trust measures. So we grade ourselves on a different curve. As Obi, gave us our education last week on the because Wall Street and the stock market is not the economy, but yet that becomes $50,000. The Dow's over $50,000. Doesn't matter to us. Shouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. It matters to the people who are making money off of Wall Street, not us. Instead, focus on measures that we should be able to influence if we prioritize things differently. Reduced rates of child poverty, reduced rates of maternal mortality, better response to our environmental disasters, and then community trust measures. How well is our community performing? How well are our schools performing? Are the people that need these services? Yeah, it is deprogramming them. It is. Are the people in marginalized communities in particular? Are they being supported with things? And how successful are they? Those are the things we should be measuring ourselves against, right? That's what the matriarchy does. You think about countries look at Scandinavian countries. A lot of them have women in leadership positions. A lot of the companies, from a per capita perspective, they have a higher rate of CEOs that are women. And they just measure their societal success differently than we do. Because they're not chasing something that the patriarchy told them to chase. Then resistance and tension, realistically. This transition would not be smooth. Hold on a second. This transition would not be smooth. Expect claims of softness or national decline. Electoral swings back toward more traditional leadership styles. Regional divides, urban versus rural. Religious pushback in some states. The patriarchy again. And then culture wars around education curriculum. Some states would move faster. Others would resist and maintain traditional governance norms. The U.S. would likely look more regionally fragmented before stabilizing. I agree with that. You know, we talk about the soft secession where blue states and red states become their own little individual communities because they tend to prioritize different things. We see it. We know it. We know that the states have the highest rates of successful education outcomes are blue, lower rates of poverty, lower rates of maternal mortality, you know, lower rates of crime. Red states are on the other side. I don't know what red states prioritize anymore. I really don't. Again, I don't know what they prioritize. Rhetoric? What would actually make it stick? These three structural drivers. Economic proof. If caregiving investment increases GDP participation and stabilizes families, the resistance would weaken. National security stability. If diplomacy first policy avoids major war, critics then would lose leverage. And then generational replacement. By 2040, Gen Z and younger millennials dominate elected office. What it would not look like. Men losing political power overnight? No. Patriarchy abolished? Of course not. Conflict disappearing? Definitely not. America becoming non-competitive globally? On the contrary, we would just compete in a different way. Think of it this way, right? The economic, the capital, the economic engines that exist in our country, if they were prioritized to things that don't include the industrial military complex and cutting taxes for the rich and the wealthy, the billionaires and corporations, and the wage gap getting wider and wider, if we shifted that model to say, again, the United States is going to have the best public education system in the world, the best healthcare system in the world, the best social safety net programs in the world. When I worked in corporate America, we used to do this productivity studies, and we learned that we looked at models of countries around the world and companies around the world, and those that prioritized those things, like employee retention, for example, or there's an indices, I forget what it is. There's an indice that measures how many companies' employees use all their time off. Do you know? I think this is about right. Somebody can quote me on this. It's around 40% of employees use all their vacation time annually. 40%. 40%. Like, what? Why would we? That is, you're losing money. You work to acquire, whether you acquire PTO or CTO, you earn it, right? 28 to 36, is that what the number is? There you go, Obi. So it's lower than that. So it's lower than that. Imagine that, right? We work to earn this time off and we don't take the time off. That was one of the reasons that I left corporate America, because they started to change policy. I'm like, no, I can't support that. Sorry, but no. That's the patriarchy. You are conditioned that you have to work for the man, figuratively and literally. Hi, Heather.
Hi. I actually totally spaced out what I was going to say.
It's all right.
I got busy doing the dishes, but I love your matriarchy idea. I think we should have been this way all along, but
I totally agree.
Oh, and there goes my phone.
Thank you for being here, friend. I appreciate you. See you later. Yeah, I mean, I know that some companies will pay, but again, I know this from being inside baseball. You don't get the entire amount. You always lose some. Some roll it over, but you can only roll over a certain amount, right? So think about that. 36% of us who are likely either salary and or hourly employees who earn time off, we're not taking it. What are we doing? Why? Are you being told you can't? You know, a day off, vacation days, doesn't mean you need to go to Costa Rica. It just means chilling on your couch, watching a movie, sleeping in. Right? Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right, Minnie. If you don't take your vacation days, you are reducing your pay on your own. You are cutting your own wages if you don't take your vacation days. Why? Why do we just, again, this is the patriarchy script. Yes, obviously, this is corporate America, but what is corporate America fueled by? The patriarchy. People in my worldview of how I would love to see our society function would be encouraged. I have friends from who live in the Netherlands, and they are forced to take their vacation day. They do this audit. I forgot how they described it, but like in October, they're like, listen, you've got a month of vacation time left. You need to use it. Please go take the month off. I mean, they just prioritize well-being. They prioritize caregiving. They prioritize the things that should matter. They prioritize the well-being of their families and their communities because they know there's been a big study on retention, right? And that is one of the most important measures within the success of any company. It's retention. How well can you retain your employees? Because there's an economic impact. If you don't retain your employees at a high rate, you spend a significant amount of money replacing them. First of all, loss of production while they leave, and then to hire somebody to replace them requires that investment of time. It's something that doesn't get talked about enough in corporate America. Hopefully they'll learn from that, but they're falling behind. Good morning, bro. I know this topic fires you up. How are you?
Yeah, hey. So I just pulled the numbers. It looks like now the problem is that the last study was in 2023, right? So that means the full impact of the pandemic would not have been captured in those data set.
Good point. Good
right?
point.
So here are the numbers and for those of you playing at home, remember this is a sample size. This is not reflective of your individual reality. I think it's important to throw out that caveat because statistical analysis is baffling, right? It's not about your anecdotal story. It's about broad strokes, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
So, Flux Job Survey, over 3,000 U.S. workers found that 23% of employees didn't take a single day of vacation in the past year. Beyond that, 40% said they only took 1 to 10 days off in the past year. Now, so the average employee held on to nearly $3,000 worth of unused PTO in 2023. Now, it's super important that we talk about this.
Sure.
PTO used to be treated the exact same way as actual retirement accounts, right?
Correct.
We called those pensions. But gee, Steve, what did the Republican Party do and what kind of tax laws did they pass so that all of your PTO when cashed out was included in your income?
Yeah, exactly.
And not your pension, not a retirement benefit that was already pre-taxed.
Correct.
Because your PTO is a pre-taxed event. It is taxed in your paycheck. You earn that time per your contract, whether you're in a labor organization or someone who is salaried, right? Or an hourly employee works X amount of hours and builds up X amount of vacation time, right? If we were to go back to pensions and get rid of 401ks, which, if I may be honest for just a moment and get on my soapbox, 401ks are a joke. They were set up to enable corporations to make billions of dollars in the 30, 40 plus years that they've been really hyperactive, right? Conceptually, they're a great idea, allowing individuals to save money for retirement. However, the way the Republican Party has managed to completely eviscerate the tax structure of the United States, it's really of no benefit. Yes, I understand that you're going to get some money. Yeah, guess what? Depending on how you have it structured and depending on what kind of an IRA you have, what do you have to do when you take the money out? You got to pay taxes. I want you to think about this. That money comes out of your paycheck, which has already been taxed. Now you're making an investment, but because you're an individual, see my paper on why the stock market is not the economy, you are being punished for making money. But institutional investors and persons in the top 10% of wage earners are never punished for making money because they get to borrow money for free based on the fact that they have investments. How do they do that? It's called a stock buyback. So what happens is an individual has a pile of stock that's worth, let's just say, $5 million, but they want to borrow that money, right? So they can go ahead and borrow, let's say, $2 million, right? What are they paying? It's not income tax, right? It's capital appreciation. Guess what? That's not taxed.
Well, there's the pre-tax. Well, there's also the pre-tax element. Let's not confuse people too much. There's the pre-tax contributions to 401k. So let's make sure that we're not, going too far down that rabbit hole. I think your point though is this: people are not using a benefit because PTO, CTO, you work to earn it, and people are just not using it.
And the most important point is that they can't. They can't.
Correct.
What happens in today's corporate American society, which is why I left corporate America, is that you are discouraged from taking vacation. Oh, well, we really need you. This work is really important. Could you defer your vacation? No, this is not a decision between me and my employer. My employer gives me X. I'm taking X, right? But what happens is that there's this level of discouragement. And what happened all through the 70s, 80s, and up until the mid-90s is, God forbid, a woman has a baby and wants to take time off from work. What would happen? A lot of times when that woman would come back, that position was eliminated. So now they had to take a different position at a lower salary.
FMLA got really weird during that time. People had to, your job's protected. I don't think they can reduce your salary by law, but they can move you to a different position.
Yes. And then, well, depending on the state too, right? Yep. Federal protections aren't as great as we would like to think they are, right?
Correct.
When it comes to wages. I think the important keys here is that if you are allowed to take vacation, imagine if every 30 years you're not taking it, and by the study in 2023, you're losing $3,000. How many people right now, put a 1 in the chat if you'd like to have that $3,000 back?
In your pocket.
In your pocket or a savings account. Or to pay for a bill, or to have $3,000 to pay a bill, right? Yep. Of course we would. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, the only way we're going to make change is to fight for that change, right?
Correct.
And leaving corporate America is not easy, especially for a guy like me, given what I do for a living, right? Mm-hmm. That meant that I had to forego the following: assistance with paying for medical bills, because I have to pay for insurance just like you do, Steve, right?
Yep.
Vacation time. Well, now vacation time is on my dime.
That's true.
Right?
But if I don't work, I don't get paid. So that's how that
exactly, works. Right? How do we get any kind of benefits, right? So they dangle all of these things. Meanwhile, what baffles me when people vote for the Republican Party is they're constantly picking your pocket while you're looking at a shiny object, and you don't seem to see it. So when we talk about voting between two different political parties, when we talk about the matriarchy versus the patriarchy, what we're really trying to say in the simplest of terms, we want what is best for you as an individual human being from a human rights level. We're not trying to tell you which party to vote for. We're just trying to show the contrast between the two. One party, though not perfect, because nothing is, tries to treat human beings at a human level. The other party doesn't care about anybody that's not putting money in their pocket. And that's it, right? And those are your choices, right? Do you want human rights for other persons that you don't know? Do you want that broadly, or do you want to keep getting fleeced? Do you want to keep being taken advantage of? Do you want those persons who are already marginalized to be further marginalized? And what does that say about you as a human being? I don't know. I'm not here to pass judgment. But what I am here to say is that corporate America takes and takes and takes and takes. But you know what also they do? They receive.
They sure do.
The amount of corporate welfare, and we talk about Walmart all the time. And listen, I get it. Some people can only shop at Walmart. Some people can only, because that's all there is where they live. I'm not telling you not to go, to go there. And I'm not telling you to save money, because that's ridiculous. You got to do what you got to do, right?
Totally agree. Yep.
To survive. But what I'm talking about is the fact that that family has so much money and they keep taking advantage of the system. They keep taking corporate welfare. And people have come up here besides Steve and I, and they've acknowledged that Walmart has more employees on public assistance than any other employer in the United States.
Per capita, that is very true.
Right?
That is very true.
Yeah. Amber, that's a good question. I know a lot about that. It'd be fun, Amber, actually, if you ever want to jump on a live and talk about contract work for the folks in the IT world. That's a good subject too, right? And I'll end with this. I actually had some people come and attack me, not from your audience, Steve, but attack me on the food as a human right, while scrambling up the mantle of Christianity.
Of course.
It never ends. The cruelty is not only the point, it's the mission. And they're not done yet. They're not done yet. Nope. Anyway, hey, listen, what you were just reading, what you were just reading, did you put that on Substack?
It's not mine. I prompted
Can you, because you've talked about a lot of stuff, you could reference it, right?
You know what I do? I'll do my own version of it. It's a good idea.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
My own version of it. Yeah.
Because now that I'm on the subscriber list over there at Substack.
I got you.
I think that would be a fascinating article. Hey, listen, and everyone in the comments, you've been doing a good job chasing the trolls this morning. Some of your comments literally made me laugh so hard that I started coughing. So keep it up, folks, in the comments, because I sometimes just need to read what you're saying to trolls, because it just fills me with so much joy and love. And as always, the mods are fucking fantastic. And you, sir,
are the best, aren't they?
You, sir, and your beard are looking quite glorious this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate you very much, you handsome devil. Get the hell out of here. Tell our wife I said hello. Talk to you later.
I will right now. Steve says hi. Peace.
Bye. See you later. Yeah, I mean, no notes. I think that this is kind of this, really, we're at this impasse. We're going to have to ask ourselves some questions. How do we want to be remembered? What side of history? Want to thank Pedro and also Char for your kind contributions towards the Do Something tour. Thank you, Char. You're very kind. Pedro, thank you very much as well. Appreciate you. All right, I see Gigi. I've got a couple. I want to talk about crime in our patriarchy and how our societies would respond and address crime. Hi, Gigi. How are you today?
It was cold outside. That's it was, my hands were like frozen.
Gigi, are you there? Gigi
wasn't here, so
Gigi,
really
are you there?
Oh my gosh, I am so.
Oh, okay, so sorry, I wasn't sure. Might have been an accident. I get that. All right, so let's talk about our shift as we shift towards a matriarchy and how we would respond to crime. Care-centered policy, consensus governance, restorative justice expansion, economic support for families. So between 2026 and 2040, crime rates would likely shift unevenly rather than uniformly. Violent crime would likely decrease modestly over time. Property crime might initially fluctuate. Incarceration rates would almost certainly decline. The outcome would depend, obviously, on execution. Violent crime, for example. Research consistently shows violent crime correlates strongly with childhood trauma, poverty and instability, exposure to violence, lack of economic mobility, untreated mental health issues. This has been studied for decades. Once again, Steve the Broken Record today, which political party ideologically would address things like childhood trauma, poverty, instability, exposure to violence, lack of economic mobility, untreated mental health issues? Making the case, again, for harm reduction. If matriarchy norms led to universal early childhood support, paid family leave, stable housing programs, expanded access to mental health, and then reduced childhood food insecurity, then long-term violent crime would likely decline. That's logic. Why? Because adverse child experiences, or ACEs, are one of the strongest predictors of later violent behavior. Policies that reduce ACE exposure have measurable long-term impact. Countries with strong family support systems, Nordic states, for example, have significantly lower homicide rates than the U.S. does. Get it out early, right? Ash talked about this earlier, right? It starts in utero, starts here. This isn't a paper, D-Max. It's something I prompted ChatGPT with a question, and to Obi's point, I will reference what I found, and I'll turn it into my own version, and then I'll post it on my Substack. Please subscribe to my Substack, by the way. Domestic violence. This is a bit more complex. A matriarchal cultural shift that redefines masculinity, encourages emotional literacy, normalizes therapy, and then reduces economic dependency. Could reduce domestic violence over time. However, during transition periods, backlash effects sometimes cause temporary spikes in gender-based violence, historically observed during rapid gender norm shifts globally. So short-term volatility, long-term likely decline. That's an investment, right? Again, nothing here is perfect. There's no perfect solution to any of this. It's about what we want to achieve. So by and large, if you focus on the things that are the predictors to violent crime and domestic violence, education, less stigmas around therapy, mental health therapy in particular for men, how to address poverty, more access to education, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If your society is based around those things, then logic would tell you that you would reduce the rates of things that attribute to those deficiencies, right? Again, it's a investment, long-term. Property crime. Highly sensitive to economic inequality, youth unemployment, and then urban opportunity gaps. If the shift narrows inequality and expands job access, property crime would likely decrease. However, if reforms reduce incarceration too quickly without strong diversion programs, there could be short-term increases. Execution matters more than ideology. Totally agree. Totally agree. Incarceration rates, they would almost certainly be lower in a matriarchy. If restorative justice expands and sentencing reforms take hold, non-violent drug offenses would decline. Diversion programs would replace jail for low-level crimes, and recidivism drops with better reentry support. The U.S. currently incarcerates far more people per capita than any peer country, and it's not even close. A matriarchal norm shift would likely reduce that gap significantly. Matriarchal, I added a syllable. Matriarchal. The U.S. leads in defense spending and incarceration rates. I don't think we should be too proud of that, right? But it's always been that way. And why? It starts with the P word, the patriarchy. Gotta be strong, gotta be tough, gotta lock people up. So again, focus on the things that matter, right? A society that promotes the well-being of its citizens, the collective, addressing poverty, education, healthcare. What are the things that I stand for every single day? I believe that healthcare, food, water, and shelter are a human right. That's a matriarchy. Wow, so fucking radical. So fucking radical. Whew. Man, yeah. I'm a radical lefty because I think people should have shelter, food, water, and healthcare.
You filthy radical, Steve. You filthy radical.
Seriously. So
I love this topic. Oh my stars. I love this topic so much. I just wanted to come up real quick because you were talking about, destigmatized therapy, which we talk about that all the time, right? Everybody, especially men, but yes, everyone. And I just wanted to add, I would add additionally, not just destigmatize it, but normalize it as a proactive approach, as a annual mental health check-in, just like you go to your annual physical. I want to encourage people to understand that going to therapy doesn't need to be only when you're in a crisis or when you're experiencing really, really, really hard times. You don't have to have a reason to go to therapy other than you just feel like you need to go to therapy. Go in, let the clinician figure out what you might want to focus on. They'll help you with that. And we have a lovely diagnosis code, a diagnostic code in the DSM-5 called adjustment order with anxiety and depression, or adjustment order, whatever, unspecified, or whatever. It's like the starter code, if you will, for just talking about a lot of stuff that you have some problems adjusting to, right? So go get therapy. Even if you don't think you need it, I promise you'll grow from it and you'll feel better for it. And so that's part of what my ideal matriarchy, in addition to all the amazing things that ChatGPT generated for us today. So this is a wonderful topic, but yeah.
Do you, have you seen, I know we've discussed this a lot. Have you seen an increase, I mean, not just in your practice, but just generally across the board, an increase in men seeking therapy and are participating? I'm sure that's something that's studied.
Yeah, I would say just anecdotally for me. Yeah, anecdotally for me and just in the conversations that I have in general, I think it's slowly like turtle's pace, like Mitch McConnell pace. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's shifting depending on where you're at. Now, my region of the country here in Phoenix, it's probably, I mean, I live in a pretty, I don't know what you'd call it. I live in Ahwatukee, which is a pretty very diverse, also kind of middle class-ish. We got so I think it depends.
Sure.
On the spaces. I have male clients who come in, who work in a lot of blue collar work or work in a male dominated profession, trades or whatever. And many of them talk about how they're talking to their friends about going to therapy. So I do think it's becoming more of a comfortable conversation for the more men that come to therapy, the more men are comfortable talking about their experience in therapy and how it helped them. So, yeah, just in general, go to therapy.
Well, it's interesting because, we generally take our cars to the mechanic for a couple of reasons. Something's wrong, or we go for the oil change, which is preventative. For the most part.
You still and even if you have a big bad accident and you total your car and you got to take it to the body shop and get it fixed, which that's what a lot of people do. They wait till their life has completely collapsed and come into therapy grudgingly. Because they don't know what else to do. And I always preface with we'll get you right, but you're still going to have to bring it in for tire rotation and oil change because maintenance, right? Maintenance therapy, normalize maintenance therapy.
Normalize maintenance therapy. Yeah. I love that. Thank you, friend. Appreciate you as always.
Absolutely. Love you more. Bye.
Love you most. Bye. Yeah, I mean, you guys, I advocate for therapy, for everybody, but men in particular. Fellas, it's cool. Just go, right? Emotional intelligence and, the ability to kind of unpack some shit in a safe space. It's indicative of your ability to recognize some challenges that you might have with yourself that you got to work through. Don't suffer in silence. You don't need to do it. Just get over the stigma. Just get over it. I've been through a lot of trauma in my life, and I would have not gotten through it without therapists. There's no doubt in my mind. I thought I could go it alone, but nope. I've been through so much fucking trauma without it. No way. I have no idea where I'd be. And I'm grateful for it, and I would encourage everyone, please participate. It is the biggest form of self-love, BK. You're right. You're back. You remember what you wanted to ask?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, it was about the workforce and the matriarchy and stuff, I've always had a mantra that I say a lot, and I've been saying it for years, is a happy, healthy employee is a productive employee, and they stay in their jobs.
Absolutely.
And that's the way the greatest generation intended for things to be when they had pensions and minimum wage. Actually, you could support your family and stuff like that. And then the greedy people came along and screwed it all up, starting with Reagan.
It's different now. You're right. People, that's a good point. You know, our parents stayed in their jobs for 35, 40 years. They got one job out of high school or college. They stayed it until they retired. They got a good nest egg. They got a good retirement. They got a good pension. The middle class was built. But now people are just like, why am I doing this? I mean, why am I doing this? Which is why you see a lot of job hoppers. And again, a good company these days is measured with a retention index. How capable are we of retaining people because of how we treat them? So thank you, Heather. I appreciate you. Appreciate you.
Also, talking about the PTO thing, I had to have surgery in November, and it's a surgery that I had put off multiple times for my job, and my job once again wanted me to put off my necessary surgery until after the first of the year, because it was November, and I work in retail, and that's our busy time of year. So I got denied my PTO for that. I had my surgery anyway, but didn't get paid.
Of course. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Said no one ever.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate you very much. Be safe. Thanks for coming back up. I'll talk to you later. All right, bye. That's another example, right? You know, oftentimes there's this. I forgot where I was and what seminar I was at with some of my peers in corporate America, and there was this investigation as to how people were trying to develop their approach to PTO so they could maximize it. Like there's this formula, like depending on the holidays, like you'll take a Friday off going into a Monday, so you have a 4-day weekend, or you build your vacation around an extended stay around the holidays, and then companies were starting to crack down on it, and I'm like, why? It's their fucking time. I remember sitting it was probably a month or so before I tendered my resignation. And I remember sitting around as we were discussing, this was right around the time when we were starting to come back to the office post-COVID. We're starting to people were starting to figure it out. And I knew I was going to be alone on the island. Shocker. I know that'll surprise you. And people were just like, this big real estate number. And I'm like, so I, of course, came prepared with the numbers. I look at our profit, look at our productivity, our profitability. They've skyrocketed. We are humming. We've never done better. And why? So why do we want to upset the apple cart? Well, people are taking advantage. No, people are not taking advantage of it. Again, look at our productivity. Look at our efficiencies. They've all improved, every single department. And I used to battle with a peer of mine, and I would say I would compare my pillar to yours every single day. We are outperforming you. So maybe if you want to reduce people's ability to work from home, you don't make it a blanket coverage. You impact the people who are not performing. And that turned in this whole debate. And then we started saying, then they tried to make this claim that people were taking advantage of their PTO. I said, it's their PTO. How are they taking advantage of it? And I'm like, I remember going home that night thinking to myself, I'm fucking done. I can't do this shit anymore. Can't do it. And it was Obi mentioned this. It was a massive sacrifice that I made. I made really, really good money, had exceptional benefits, all those kinds of things. And I'm like, I just can't do it. Privileged white man, sure, I could do that. But and it's been bumpy ever since, but I don't regret it. Exactly. They're taking advantage of their paycheck. Exactly right. So I'm just thinking to myself, what are we fucking doing? What are we doing? We don't treat people as people. In corporate America, you are treated as a line item on a P&L sheet. Right? Why? And you wonder why people are like, I don't want to work in corporate America anymore. And that's the push, right? It's a cog in the wheel. That's the big push that you get about how, because yes, real estate's got a lot to do with it. Large companies, I worked for a Fortune 100 company, and you have massive amounts of investment in real estate. That's not my fucking problem. That's your fucking problem. Would you rather have an efficient workforce that feels respected that are doing their job no matter where they work? Or do you want to go through the process of making it look good that every cubicle is filled? That's fucking bullshit. It's bullshit. That's the part of the system that we're in now. And what do? We, in our economic system, reward those people, the real estate owners, the executives, the corporate capitalists, the large corporations who diminish their employees. Walmart, this has been studied. You guys know the drill. Walmart trains or going through onboarding for their new employees. They teach their employees how to apply for benefits. What? That wouldn't happen in matriarchy. I can tell you right now. You'd be guaranteed higher rates of pay. Work would be respected. Time off would be encouraged. Dads would be encouraged to spend time with their newborns or their families in general. Your work would be respected. Yeah. You've worked remotely for 6 years and used one sick day. That's an example, right? I mean, don't forget, where I live, we get a lot of snow. I was supposed to get another 6 to 8 inches this weekend. No comment. There's been days when I couldn't get out of my driveway. And why would you diminish someone who wants to work? If you're stuck in a snowbank, you get stuck in traffic, you're 2.5 hours late, you've lost productivity. Exactly. Figured you guys would do that. Be cool. Exactly. Sorry, you got me. Why not just roll over, log onto your computer, and you put in a full workday? Just not how it is here, right? Not how it is here. And these are the things that I think societies that respect their workers and their people and treat people as humans, this is why we need more matriarchal influence, in my opinion. Homicide and firearms is another category in crime. This would be the biggest wild card because it requires a policy change. If matriarchal norms correlate with a stronger gun safety laws, would anybody oppose that? I don't think so. Community violence interruption programs, and then expanded background checks, then a firearm homicide rate would decline. If gun policy remains unchanged, broader care investments alone may reduce but not eliminate violent crime. Different approach to society. What the data suggests overall, if we base projections on countries with high gender equity, strong social safety nets, lower income equality, they generally experience lower violent crime rates, lower incarceration, and then higher trust in institutions. These things match. Higher gender equity, strong social safety nets, and lower income inequality. Been studied, societies have it. It points directly to lower violent crime rates, lower incarceration rates, and then higher trust in institutions. Does anybody have an issue with that? Why would you? Why would you have an issue with that? These are the kinds of things that we've been talking about for a very long time. Again, the script, the patriarchy, the Marlboro man, right? The tough guy with a gun, that kind of shit. That's the script. We know that the amount of firearms we have in our country is one of the reasons we have such a high violent crime rate. Period. It's not even debatable anymore. We don't need to debate it because it's just evidence, right? You want fewer firearm deaths? How about we reduce the amount of firearms that we have? Or again, invest in mental health programs. If one of the biggest talking points from the right, especially those who just don't think we should do anything because shall not be infringed, is, well, it's mental health. Okay, then why does your political party constantly cut access to mental health programs? You think losing Medicaid, Medicare is going to improve mental health? You think closing rural hospitals is going to improve mental health? You think kicking people off of their subsidies, losing the ACA subsidies, which means people are going to lose their health insurance, which means they're going to get sicker and sicker, which is going to lead to bad mental health, which is going to lead to actions potentially if there's preconceptions to violence? Come on. Doesn't it make sense? Doesn't it just make sense? You fiscal conservatives out there, right? Doesn't that just make sense? It's so fucking obvious. It's just so obvious. It's right there in front of you. You just don't want to see it because of what? You're afraid of what? And I think this entire thing that we've talked about today, and my cold medicine's wearing off, so I might have to end a little bit early today because I feel like shit. The entire thing that we've talked about today, right, has been about just looking at society differently. My desire, I don't know if it will happen before I die, right? But I want the next generation and the generation after that to just to look at things differently, right? Hang on a second. Let me just do a couple of quick check-ins over here. Stand by. Carrie, thank you. Carrie said, for the tour, thank you for using your privilege for women, especially black women. Thank you for saying that, Carrie. I really appreciate that. And Laverne, thank you very much for your kind contribution. Laverne, could called out as a white woman, then you might want to sit with that a little bit. You might want to ask yourself some questions about why I feel triggered by this, or why this is bothering me. Because it's not me. Well, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But understand there's a systemic issue here. Okay? If you want to do better, if you want society to be better, especially if you're the one, and I said this before, if you're the one, right, If you're the one that is standing there saying it's all men until it's no men, which I agree with, if you're triggered by it's all white women until it's not, then isn't that the same problem? If it doesn't apply, let it fly. Who's live right now? Anybody know that we can go raid? Let me check in here. Who's live? Is Jay live? Thank you, guys. Gucci? Let me just check donations one more time, guys. Hang on a second. Oh, we'll go raid RJ. It'll be a different vibe over there, but please go raid RJ. Let me just check in real quick over here. I got Char. I got that. Amy, thank you. Amy, you're very kind. Thank you very much. Dollar Day Train, I love you too. I love you too, friend. Appreciate you guys. All right, go raid RJ. RJ O'Core, you guys know RJ. Tell him we sent you. And we'll be back here tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time, hopefully. If for some reason we're not, we'll let you know, but I'll make it. I'll rally. Remember, friends, there's always something to do.